This man's name is Kang Gyoma. At first glance, he seems painfully ordinary. In truth, reincarnation drops him inside his favorite game. Today, he faces the entrance exam at the Nobles Academy. Every applicant here has money, while Kang Gyoma has none. On his first day, he presents his swords for registration. The professor erupts, assuming some senior arranged an outrageous prank. Kang Gyoma stands firm, insisting the blades truly belong to him. His family is poor and cannot cover the academy's tuition. Then the professor notices a green badge on his uniform. That badge identifies students accepted through a special admission test. The professor grows teary over Kang Gyoma's relentless effort. Nearby wealthy students respond with open resentment. Hearing about his poverty and admission, they complain the room stinks. Even under that hostility, Kang Gyoma remains unfazed. His previous life never allowed him any genuine peace. This time, Kang Gyoma intends to live calmly. He is young, handsome, and gifted with a rare awakened ability. Unfortunately, that ability carries one bizarre restriction. Kang Gyoma can only wield swords under 30 centimeters. His first test releases power fierce enough to stun him. Lightning bursts from the blade and reverberates throughout his body. Activating the ability brings more pain than Kang Gyoma can tolerate. If every use feels this awful, he vows to stop forever. Maybe first attempts always hurt, rather like first experiences with girls. When Kang Gyoma tests it again, the identical agony returns. Nearby, candidates gather for the ceremony, determining their student ranks. Every promising young talent attends the ranking ceremony. Sieg occupies the highest seat as one of 7 legendary heroes. Sieg is a disciple of the hero who founded the academy. Every student recognizes Sieg and admires his achievements. Yet the aging hero looks thoroughly bored and dissatisfied. Even another legendary hero's arrival fails to improve Sieg's mood. Medea arrives and warmly greets the unimpressed Sieg. Medea's curves seem more legendary than her title as the 7 Heroes Sage. Sieg mocks Medea for dressing youthfully despite being 70 years old. Rather than feeling insulted, Medea happily accepts his words as praise. She says her blessing could make Sieg look 10 years younger. Sieg refuses, arguing that elderly people must embrace their true nature. Medea possesses a youthful essence, which explains her appearance. Despite his insults, Medea accepts the invitation to watch opening day. She once hated these people, yet she agrees anyway. Medea mainly wants to see Sieg's granddaughter herself. Dyed hairstyles turn the assembled students into a moving color palette. Kang Gyoma alone has black hair among them. Students keep joking that Kang Gyoma cannot possibly be noble. Everyone forgets him as soon as Chloe appears. Her blue hair and striking presence leave the boys blushing crimson. Sieg's granddaughter Chloe carries the title of Sword Emperor. She is also the game's main heroine. The entrance examination is now ready to begin. One ancient hero created the academy's subspace long ago. Inside, students can suffer injuries and elimination. Returning to reality restores their bodies without consequences. Thus, every combat method is permitted, including lethal attacks. Sieg and Medea call this an academy tradition. Those lasting longest inside receive the highest ranks. Sieg and Medea watch the special admission student with interest. Everyone else fixates on Chloe's extraordinary attributes. Kang Gyoma could easily join the pack pursuing Chloe, yet he understands the truth behind her miraculous blessing. While attraction drives everyone forward, Kang Gyoma heads the other way. He even reads a guide about living peacefully in this world. Then he remembers combat here demands that miserable awakened ability. Kang Gyoma decides surrender sounds much better. Everyone cheers when the subspace transfer is announced, except Kang Gyoma. Once the transfer happens, Kang Gyoma becomes firmly determined. After 7 minutes, several students abruptly return from subspace. Their agonized reactions to elimination leave everyone deeply shaken. Medea observes everything and announces Chloe has claimed first place. That outcome seems inevitable because of Chloe's lineage. Medea eagerly celebrates Sieg's granddaughter and her impressive performance. Sieg views the result far less enthusiastically. Chloe fails to break the academy record Sieg has held for ages. As Sieg starts leaving, a crushing sensation strikes like sudden stomach pain. Every person present feels that same oppressive force. Terrified students raise their eyes toward the sky. Medea asks whether Sieg feels it and knows its identity. Even the legendary hero cannot explain what they are sensing. Their focus swings upward as the sky begins fracturing. Such a sight should be utterly impossible. Then 2 figures become visible inside the shattered sky. One student plummets from the sky, smashing into the arena floor. A crushing silence spreads throughout the arena. Medea immediately sends medical staff toward the injured students. The story rewinds several minutes to reveal what happened earlier. The cadets should be battling one another, but 2 brothers dominate everyone. Those brothers have effectively decided the outcome from the beginning. This is no battle royale, it has become a deathmatch. Kang Gyoma knows precisely which 2 cadets caused this slaughter. The violent twins possess an instinctive talent for brutal combat. For 30 minutes, they torment weaker cadets instead of fighting seriously. They enjoy ripping their opponents apart simply because they can. Kang Gyoma looks so harmless that neither brother notices him. Their collection population of victims eventually dies, leaving both brothers bored. Only one terrified girl remains, trembling helplessly against the arena wall. The brothers point toward her with clearly malicious intentions. Kang Gyoma can no longer remain silent and watch. The taller twin approaches her, declaring that she suits his tastes. That crosses the final line for Kang Gyoma. Kang Gyoma shouts from the arena's rear, drawing both brothers' attention. He intervenes instinctively, placing himself directly inside their sights. The brothers notice his tag color and dismiss him as worthless. They mock Kang Gyoma as a special admission cadet. The twins decide to kill him quickly and return to their victim. Kang Gyoma faces both attackers while searching desperately for an answer. His painless blessing lasts only 30 seconds. That brief window seems useless against opponents this dangerous. His sole remaining option lies inside his bag of sashimi knives. Drawing a blade will awaken the sword god's blessing again. The resulting pain will be just as unimaginable as before. Kang Gyoma wanted a quiet, protected life, yet half a day barely passes. He reaches into the bag and produces one kitchen knife. Both brothers burst into laughter at the ridiculous-looking weapon. The taller twin lunges forward, eager to finish Kang Gyoma. Kang Gyoma cannot afford to choose carefully now. He forms one desperate plan around his two blessings. For 30 seconds, painless protection can suppress the sword god's agony. Kang Gyoma only needs to endure until that timer expires. He activates the painless blessing just before drawing the knife. The sword god's blessing erupts again as the taller twin descends. The taller twin wears a vicious smile while closing in. Kang Gyoma has only one possible path to survival. If the knife cannot cut through this attack, Kang Gyoma dies. He wonders whether a sashimi knife can truly slice a person. Kang Gyoma remembers asking his former master about such blades. That old master had once belonged to a criminal gang. Kang Gyoma had asked why films showed gangsters using them. His master called the idea cinematic nonsense. A person cannot be carved like fish, his master insisted. Even divine power supposedly could not change that fact. Yet the blessing gives Kang Gyoma a different answer. If Kang Gyoma wills the cut, the blade can make it. He chooses the blessing's promise over his master's practical warning. Kang Gyoma thrusts the knife toward the charging giant. In one instant, the taller twin is sliced cleanly in half. Every nearby cadet stares in stunned disbelief. The other twin cannot comprehend what the quiet cadet just accomplished. A simple kitchen knife has performed an impossible feat. The taller twin's body drops in two separate pieces. The other twin screams at the horrific sight. He forces himself to remember that this is only subspace. His brother is not truly dead outside the simulation. That explanation cannot erase what the other twin witnessed. The other twin blames his brother's defeat on careless fighting. As the surviving brother, he decides to compensate for it. He takes the fallen twin's power gauntlet for himself. Equipping gauntlets on both hands awakens their full capability. The equipment strengthens his defense and raises his jumping power by 200%. His fists now strike with the force of a heavy vehicle. The other twin believes even an S-rank weapon cannot pierce him. Kang Gyoma ignores him while watching the blessings countdown. Every second matters before the painless protection disappears. The other twin spots an opening and charges during Kang Gyoma's distraction. He aims a surprise punch at Kang Gyoma. One instant later, the fight has already ended. The other twin lies barely alive, drenched in his own blood. Kang Gyoma finishes counting down the final seconds. When the timer reaches 0, the painless blessing vanishes. The sword god's accumulated agony crashes into Kang Gyoma all at once. He screams while still gripping the sashimi knife. Kang Gyoma finally collapses inside the arena. Later, Kang Gyoma awakens inside a white room resembling a clinic. Two unfamiliar visitors enter before Kang Gyoma can rise. He recognizes them as two legendary 7-star heroes. One is humanity's strongest hero, Sieg. The other is the Academy's director. Kang Gyoma wonders why such powerful figures came to him. Medea asks Kang Gyoma to state his name. Sieg ignores introductions and moves directly to the real issue. His hand rests tensely against the sword at his side. Sieg demands to know what on earth Kang Gyoma did. During the fight, both men sensed a powerful force coming from Kang Gyoma. Hostility hangs between them so densely that it feels almost tangible. Knowing Sieg is the strongest man alive, Kang Gyoma chooses caution. He apologizes first, admitting his actions went too far. Kang Gyoma says he will accept whatever punishment they decide. As both men glare, Medea steps between them to prevent violence. She tells Sieg to stop frightening the boy. Then Medea reveals that Sieg treated Kang Gyoma while he was unconscious. Sieg cleared Kang Gyoma's blocked meridians during that treatment. Kang Gyoma struggles to believe the Swordmaster helped him personally. After checking himself, Kang Gyoma feels noticeably lighter than before. Medea says they reviewed the footage and understood what really happened. The recording showed Kang Gyoma protecting a female student in danger. Medea starts drooling and calls Kang Gyoma her dream handsome prince. Sieg has to physically pull Medea away from Kang Gyoma. Medea assures Kang Gyoma that she will not punish him. The twins already have awful reputations throughout the academy. After Kang Gyoma's actions, both twins decide to leave school. That decision gives Kang Gyoma an enormous sense of relief. Their actual visit carries one more unexpected purpose. They came to congratulate Kang Gyoma for ranking first across the entire school. His dream of a quiet, secure life suddenly becomes impossible. In Medea's office, the two academy leaders discuss the strange situation. Medea says 20 years as director have never shown her anything similar. A new student took the highest ranking among every incoming candidate. Then that student rejected admission to the school's highest star class. They tried persuading Kang Gyoma to reconsider, but he remained firm. Medea asks whether Sieg resents Kang Gyoma outranking his granddaughter. She reminds Sieg that he witnessed Kang Gyoma's potential in the footage. Sieg rejects that interpretation and dismisses Kang Gyoma as an immature challenger. He says Kang Gyoma is merely testing the academy's established system. Sieg explains that the subspace carries the founding hero's will. If the subspace names Kang Gyoma number 1, the academy has chosen him. That decision makes Kang Gyoma the top pupil, and nothing changes it. Personally, Sieg considers Kang Gyoma an utterly baffling person. Outstanding skills, exceptional strength, or basic experience would have explained the result. Yet Sieg could detect none of those qualities in Kang Gyoma. The replay showed an extraordinary essence within Kang Gyoma's sword technique. That technique embodied the ultimate swordsmanship Sieg has pursued throughout his life. While opening Kang Gyoma's acupoints, Sieg felt his body's extreme weakness. He also sensed that Kang Gyoma had never undergone physical training. Something hidden inside Kang Gyoma seemed beyond even humanity's strongest warrior. That mystery makes Sieg intensely competitive with his granddaughter's peer. Medea focuses less on mystery and more on Kang Gyoma's attractiveness. She remains captivated because Kang Gyoma revealed his abilities saving a woman. Medea jokes that 10 fewer years would send her after him. Sieg sits silently, lost in thought, until Medea asks what's wrong. He refuses to answer and instead asks what students call people like her. The interested academy administrator encourages Sieg to continue. His answer clearly displeases Medea, who erupts in furious anger. Kang Gyoma attends his first class after refusing the star class. The academy places him in wolf class, its lowest acceptable alternative. Any lower placement would have provoked an outburst from the elders. Kang Gyoma originally wanted Tiger class, but Medea begged him otherwise. In return, Medea promises to conceal his status as the top student. Kang Gyoma prefers safely finishing school below the academy's fiercest competition. Wolf class is somewhat advanced, though still close to his expectations. Kang Gyoma opens the broad classroom doors and steps inside. The students initially study him with mild, passing curiosity. Once they notice his special admission status, their interest disappears. Nobody cares about Kang Gyoma after learning he entered specially. Kang Gyoma welcomes their indifference because Medea kept her promise. With his ranking hidden, he can finally pursue a peaceful routine. He takes his seat as a familiar student approaches nervously. The girl shakily thanks Kang Gyoma for helping her earlier. Kang Gyoma cannot identify her and asks no immediate questions. She explains that she is the girl he rescued during testing. Kang Gyoma waves away her thanks and says it was unnecessary. He insists anyone else facing that situation would have acted similarly. Though Kang Gyoma seems to have saved Chloe, he believes he actually saved himself. Accepting her thanks would make Kang Gyoma feel like a fraud. Kang Gyoma changes subjects by introducing himself instead. The girl follows his example and reveals that her name is Chloe. By coincidence, Chloe and Kang Gyoma are assigned to the same class. With introductions finished, Kang Gyoma searches his memory for Chloe's game role. Maybe Chloe appears after Kang Gyoma stops playing, but that explanation makes no sense. The main storyline is already too advanced for a pointless new character. Kang Gyoma concludes that Chloe is another extra, just like him. He asks Chloe to hide what happened during the examination. Kang Gyoma fears rumors about his power would destroy his comfortable, quiet life. Chloe agrees, then begins making a request of her own. A loud interruption cuts her off as their homeroom teacher storms inside. Kang Gyoma tells Chloe to return to her seat for now. They can continue their conversation later. Their homeroom teacher welcomes the new members of Wolf class. Since it is their first day, he assigns basic physical conditioning. Everyone must complete 100 push-ups, sit-ups, and squats. They must also run 10 laps around the training area. For nobles trained intensely since childhood, the routine is effortless. For Kang Gyoma, the schedule feels capable of stripping him bald. After the others leave, Kang Gyoma nervously approaches the teacher. He admits that he lacks the strength for such training. Unexpectedly, the teacher already knows Kang Gyoma's name. He also appears to hold Kang Gyoma in remarkably high regard. Medea apparently failed to hide her favorable impression of him. The teacher knows Kang Gyoma may attend lessons at any level. Kang Gyoma declines the chance to enter star class. Instead, he says he only needs to visit the restroom. That excuse still leaves Kang Gyoma trapped in the exhausting exercise. His classmates race ahead while Kangyoma struggles to stay close. He already feels one breath away from collapsing. Chloe catches up beside him and notices his miserable condition. She reveals that she is already completing her 9th lap. After offering brief encouragement, Chloe speeds away toward her final lap. By evening, Kangyoma returns to his dormitory and drains several water bottles. Only 1 week at the academy has already produced several unexpected problems. After training, Kangyoma rushes to the cafeteria seeking dinner. There, he discovers that academy meals cost money. The price of 1 spicy pork rice serving leaves him frozen. Remembering that expense now sends Kangyoma into furious despair. He hurls his bottle against the wall. His remaining living money is nearly gone. Kangyoma bitterly regrets refusing the cash his father offered. For several days, he survives on the campus shop's cheapest water. He even begins longing for the free dinners from his army service. With hunger gnawing at him, Kangyoma searches for another distraction. His blessing is the first subject that enters his mind. As usual, the status screen appears and displays its information. This time, the screen contains far more details than before. Kangyoma's physical level has increased. That improvement upgrades the sword god's blessing as well. The blessing can now activate with swords slightly longer than before. Kangyoma studies his reflection and confirms his physical progress. The swordmaster probably caused it by activating his pressure points. His body feels as though it has undergone an evolution. Even so, the sword god's blessing still reaches only knife length. Continued growth might eventually let Kangyoma wield a small sword. His hands now itch whenever he carries no blade. That strange urge is likely another consequence of the blessing. A knock sounds from the dormitory door. Kangyoma opens it and finds Chloe waiting outside. Chloe asks whether she is disturbing him. Kangyoma asks why she has come to his room. Missing him at the cafeteria, she dropped by to see how he was doing. Kangyoma lies that he normally avoids food prepared by other people. Inside, his thoughts nearly overflow at the prospect of eating. Chloe looks disappointed because she hoped they could share dinner. Kangyoma immediately changes clothes and tells Chloe to buy ingredients. That evening, Kangyoma prepares an excellent meal for them. Chloe is sincerely impressed by his cooking. She grew up near the beach and especially loves eating fish. Kangyoma specializes in preparing fish, making their tastes perfectly compatible. The persistent urge to hold a knife also makes cooking appealing. Kangyoma decides to sharpen his skills by slicing sashimi. Unfortunately, the sword god's blessing activates whenever he grips an ordinary kitchen knife. Kangyoma cannot grip a kitchen knife without activating the blessing. He asks Chloe for a larger knife, avoiding his weapons for cooking. Chloe enters her room and returns carrying an enormous sword. The blade is absurdly oversized for preparing one simple fish. With no practical alternative, Kangyoma invokes his blessing. Its painless effect lasts 30 seconds, demanding extremely swift work. Kangyoma was once called his country's greatest swordsman. Preparing fish has always been his specialty, so proof comes now. He slices flawlessly and finishes the entire fish after 21 seconds. 9 seconds of painless protection still remain. The finished fish looks so perfect, Kangyoma considers it a masterpiece. Chloe asks how Kangyoma became such an excellent cook. Kangyoma admits he once earned pocket money in a Japanese kitchen. As a noble, Chloe cannot understand what part-time employment means. Her confusion plainly exposes the distance between their social positions. Once dinner ends, Chloe volunteers to wash every dish. Because Kangyoma prepared their entire meal, she wants to handle cleanup. Kangyoma crosses the room, leaving Chloe enough space to clean. Full for the first time in nearly a week, he hums joyfully. A plate crashes behind Kangyoma, abruptly silencing his cheerful tune. Chloe has probably never washed dishes before. Kangyoma also dropped plates when he was Chloe's age. He gazes through the window, ignoring more breaking sounds behind him. A book suddenly tumbles from Chloe's study desk. It resembles a diary and falls open to one particular entry. The entry describes Kangyoma saving Chloe during the class placement test. Chloe's cute handwriting features rounded letters and decorative stickers. Kangyoma picks up the diary and smiles at the page. Wind entering through the window flips the diary forward. Another entry describes meeting Kangyoma inside their shared class. Chloe also records her growing interest in Kangyoma. Finding everything adorable, Kangyoma cannot resist reading further. He continues turning pages while admiring Chloe's overwhelming cuteness. Several pages later, Kangyoma encounters his name once again. Countless following pages repeatedly declare the words, "I love you." Another plate shatters, snapping Kangyoma's attention back. He turns and finds Chloe watching with blank, frightening eyes. In an empty voice, Chloe asks whether he read her diary. Chloe's emotionless condition is neither sudden nor unfamiliar. Her upbringing created it as a powerful psychological defense mechanism. Heroes win respect by defeating demonic beasts in dangerous battles. Those victories increase their social standing and worldwide reputations. Yet stagnant, heroic ranks contain factions abusing weaker people through authority. When laws cannot punish them, another group answers from the shadows. People know that bloodline simply as the Auditor family. The family preserves order while secretly carrying carrying out assassinations. They operate from darkness while guiding society toward the light. Children born into that family begin assassination training before adolescence. Their emotions are suppressed through merciless and severe instruction. That training shapes them into flawless machines built for assassination. Chloe belongs to this blood-soaked family of secret executioners. She first stains her own hands with blood at 15. Her family constantly warns her never to underestimate her assassination abilities. Those warnings leave Chloe intensely aware of her own capabilities. Gradually, the relentless training twists Chloe's original nature. A heavy, gloomy shadow begins spreading across her heart. By academy age, her identity is eroded, leaving only faint emotions. The academy separates students into classrooms according to their aptitude. Every student's talent reaches at least a dragon's level or higher. Although their members flourish in shadows, family decree assigns them common classes. That arrangement binds the family and academy. Chloe receives strict orders to remain entirely undetected. Throughout her childhood, the family strips away every personal liberty. Chloe accepts her assassin's fate without offering any protest. She already believes nothing can possibly change that predetermined future. Then Chloe meets someone she knows she will never forget. Chloe stands defenseless while two vicious brothers advance toward her. Kang Guillaume, seemingly the room's weakest person, rises to defend her. Even death inside the subspace battle royale is false and harmless. Despite that safety, Kang Guillaume still chooses to save Chloe. Chloe had quietly accepted death while awaiting her predestined fate. She had long abandoned every struggle she considered meaningless. Her training taught her to behave meekly and avoid attention. Kang Guillaume's intervention feels like sudden daylight piercing Chloe's darkened thoughts. She watches Kang Guillaume wield his sword. Kang Guillaume fights defensively, protecting Chloe rather than attempting to assassinate anyone. Watching him fight for her, Chloe remembers a fairy tale hidden beneath her pillow. It tells of a princess trapped inside a castle and rescued by a prince. The memory makes Chloe's chest tingle, while warmth spreads across her reddening cheeks. That unfamiliar sensation can only be love, Chloe decides with sudden certainty. By peeking into Chloe's private thoughts, Kang Guillaume commits her ultimate forbidden act. Chloe fixes him with a deadly stare, and Kang Guillaume knows his intrusion is rude. He searches his memory, wondering how this situation became so dangerous. Perhaps everything started when Kang Guillaume stole a teenage girl's purest feelings. Or maybe trouble began after he followed Chloe for the food she offered. Regardless, Kang Guillaume now faces death wearing the expression of a teenage girl. Escaping this room becomes Kang Guillaume's only immediate priority. He changes subjects, admiring the moon while quietly searching for an exit. Kang Guillaume barely begins speaking when Chloe demands another answer about her diary. He claims he saw only her reference book, praising her dedicated studying. That compliment cannot protect Kang Guillaume from the fate approaching him. He still cannot believe Chloe noticed, since she washed dishes during his spying. Her previous formal speech has vanished, leaving Chloe strangely unrecognizable. Kang Guillaume insists he never saw the diary, but Chloe keeps pressing. Under relentless questioning, Kang Guillaume finally admits that he read it. Chloe immediately decides Kang Guillaume's life must end. She draws the same sword once offered for cutting fish. Kang Guillaume surveys the room while calculating every possible escape route. They occupy the 4th floor, making a window jump impossible. The front door remains his sole exit, but Chloe guards it with steel. She certainly will not let Kang Guillaume leave with all his limbs. Chloe advances with her sword, and Kang Guillaume's remaining time rapidly disappears. He searches for the reason behind her sudden murderous transformation. Her fixed pupils and deep red eyes point toward one terrifying answer. Kang Guillaume is facing a textbook yandere. Her leap from an adorable strawberry to a killer makes matters even worse. Chloe is not merely a yandere, she also has a dual personality. Handling yandere behavior alone would be difficult, while the second personality compounds everything. Opening Chloe's diary appears to trigger this violent change. The danger may be severe, yet she will pursue Kang Guillaume until death. To survive, Kang Guillaume must seize control of his future immediately. Otherwise, Chloe's fixation will only become more disastrous. A weapon offers Kang Guillaume his only chance of leaving alive. Unfortunately, just 9 seconds remain after he spent 21 slicing fish. His sashimi knife rests in his room, while the earlier kitchen knife remains unreachable. Reaching that knife would cost Kang Guillaume both arms before he arrived. Scanning the room again, Kang Guillaume spots a box cutter on Chloe's desk. Nothing else can serve as a weapon in this desperate situation. Still, such a tiny tool seems incapable of awakening the sword god's blessing. Chloe suddenly charges, forcing Kang Guillaume to test that assumption. He snatches the box cutter, scattering the remaining stationery across the floor. Then Kang Guillaume extends its blade and triggers multiple status screens. Resourcefulness under pressure strengthens his mental resilience and grants temporary intimidation. The system performs its required adjustments, then activates the blessing. Chloe rushes forward as Kang Guillaume draws back to strike. Just before her sword reaches him, Kangyoma mentions her hair looks long. The intimidation effect makes Chloe freeze for one crucial instant. Kangyoma immediately unleashes the box cutter's blade. The room dissolves into darkness and indistinct blurs. Later that evening, Chloe wakes to find her room dark, neat, and empty. Her first thought concerns Kangyoma, and she wonders where he went. Chloe calls for him several times, but silence confirms she is alone. Her last clear memory involves secretly watching him beside her window. Everything after Kangyoma looked outside remains hazy in her mind. A sudden urge sends Chloe searching for her katana. She finds it leaning against the study desk. Chloe sometimes blacks out whenever she grips her katana. This time though, she believes she remained firmly in control. During her younger training years, merely holding the blade erased her awareness. Whenever Chloe awakened, blood had already drenched the entire place. Her elders brushed aside every question about her actions. Instead, they warned Chloe never to reject her gift for assassination. Still, forgetting everything she did with Kangyoma leaves Chloe mortified. She buries her face in the bed, overwhelmed by shame. Her shame quickly melts into yearning as Kangyoma fills her thoughts. Then Chloe spots a box cutter lying across the floor. She also notices that her hair now looks noticeably shorter. Inside the trash bin, trimmed strands sit gathered in a tidy pile. The evidence tells Chloe that Kangyoma helped cut her hair. She opens her journal and writes even more about loving him. Kangyoma feels nothing resembling Chloe's lovesick excitement. Behind a plain wall on the college's far side, he vomits violently. He expels the food he had just praised Chloe for providing. His painless blessing lasts 9 seconds, yet he barely survives 5 more. Even after enduring those 5 seconds, nausea still crushes him. Kangyoma loses his only decent meal from the past week. He collapses onto a bench and considers his next move. Hunger returns, leaving him worse than he felt before Chloe's visit. His thoughts circle back toward Chloe and her mysterious identity. Her swordsmanship is refined enough to kill with one clean stroke. At minimum, Chloe's technique could instantly disable an opponent. Every swing relentlessly hunts vital points with frightening precision. Her entire style seems deliberately built for assassination. Had Chloe surprised him, Kangyoma certainly would not have survived. Feeling his life threatened, he instinctively targeted Chloe's neck. Luckily, his knife lacked reach and sliced only her hair. Kangyoma cleaned everything before leaving, preventing later trouble. Yet this incident further proves peaceful safety is difficult to preserve. For Kangyoma, seeming ordinary may be life's hardest challenge. Entering this game never stripped Kangyoma of all ambition. In his previous life, a sashimi knife carried him to mastery's summit. Naturally, abandoning those old dreams never came easily. Yet every person receives a role within this world. Kangyoma was summoned here merely as an unnoticed background figure. The title Miracle Blessing names both the game and chosen cadet's power. The same blessing once belonged to the founding hero. Across the entire game, only the chosen cadet and founding hero possess it. Its stated purpose could hardly be more direct. Those blessed must rescue the world from the Demon King. Thus, an SS rank sword chooses the chosen cadet. That weapon carries both sacred power and a curse. Kangyoma owns only a humble, rankless sashimi knife. Nothing suggests any future beyond a life spent unnoticed. Since Academy enrollment, extraordinary people and crises constantly surround Kangyoma. Their relentless arrival nearly makes him forget his original goal. Countless pressures could persuade him to abandon a simple existence. Now the entire world appears devoid of even one normal person. Playing the game previously gives Kangyoma rough knowledge of key characters. His understanding of the wider world remains frustratingly limited. 1 week has already passed since Kangyoma entered the academy. By now, the chosen cadet should have awakened the legendary blessing. The chosen cadet should also have started the late admission process. This point marks the true beginning of the game's storyline. Kangyoma remembers its broad plot but never finished playing. For once, quitting halfway fills him with genuine regret. Even so, Kangyoma knows canon through the story's first half. That partial foreknowledge already grants him a major advantage. Kangyoma must preserve the established route under every circumstance. Meddling everywhere would destroy the single advantage he currently holds. His memories place a sudden dark turn during third year's second semester. Demons then discover the chosen cadet has awakened. A demon commander leads their assault upon the academy. As fighting intensifies, humans and demons tumble into total war. From there, the game resembles a conventional fantasy novel. While playing the game, Kangyoma only wanted a carefree youth he never had. That longing made the simple teenage fantasy feel worth experiencing for once. Then he deleted the game without hesitation, never expecting to enter its world. Now this world stands on the brink of war, and Kangyoma might die. The war still lies 3 years away, giving him time to face reality. Kang Gyoma refuses to run anymore and focuses on surviving what comes. He will grow stronger because dying here is no longer acceptable. Cliché games like this usually end happily, with their protagonist saving everyone. Kang Gyoma only needs enough power to protect himself from getting killed. He cannot remain a helpless weakling while danger closes in around him. His plan is simple: train hard while keeping himself beneath notice. That means limiting the Sword God's blessing whenever possible. Even brief uses have already placed tremendous pressure on Kang Gyoma's body. The blessing is powerful, but its disadvantages far outweigh its convenience. Thinking about it again suddenly opens the blessing status window. This time, Kang Gyoma notices several entries that were missing earlier. Body, mind, and armament grades now appear among the displayed information. Numbers beside those categories apparently represent each one's current level. Those grades measure his growth and reduce the blessing's physical burden. Another entry called synchronization appears, though its meaning remains completely unknown. Its description contains nothing except a string of question marks. Kang Gyoma taps the entry, but access is denied. The system says he has not fulfilled the necessary conditions. That creates another mystery surrounding the already puzzling blessing. Still, synchronization can wait while more urgent problems demand attention. Kang Gyoma needs to strengthen his body and obtain another weapon. He cannot rely forever on only 30 painless seconds of blessing. He must learn swordsmanship with a weapon that fails its activation condition. Fortunately, monster hunting midterm training begins 1 month from now. Its reward is the longsword speed weapon, a B-tier weapon. That weapon should remain useful until Kang Gyoma graduates. It is also too large for the blessing to activate. For Kang Gyoma, that makes it an ideal training weapon. There is still much to solve, but his progress finally feels tangible. A sudden voice interrupts Kang Gyoma while he remains lost in thought. Looking up, he finds Abel facing him from the other side. Abel is the Sword Emperor's descendant and someone Kang Gyoma should avoid. Any contact with Abel could alter the game's original storyline. Abel says Kang Gyoma is sitting in Abel's seat. Kang Gyoma stares blankly for a moment, too shocked to move. Abel raises her voice, finally pushing him into sliding aside. Kang Gyoma cannot stop noticing how strikingly beautiful Abel looks. He catches himself staring, unaware that his attention has lingered. When Kang Gyoma tries leaving, Abel tells him to stay. Abel says he only needs to shift slightly and make room. Calling a public bench Abel's seat seems strange, but Kang Gyoma lets it pass. He wants no involvement with Abel, despite continuing to glance over. As the game's heroine, Abel is every bit as breathtaking as expected. Abel suddenly speaks again, jolting Kang Gyoma's thoughts back into place. The conversation feels bizarre because Abel normally keeps everyone at a distance. Even the game's handsome protagonist never managed to make Abel approachable. Abel asks whether Kang Gyoma also fights with a blade. Kang Gyoma answers awkwardly, then asks how Abel figured that out. Abel says the Sword Emperor taught her to recognize swordsmen's eyes. She draws her sword and offers it for Kang Gyoma to hold. Still unsettled, Kang Gyoma declines the offer without touching it. Abel pouts, visibly irritated by his refusal. Kang Gyoma seems to have hurt Abel's feelings, yet her openness remains unbelievable. Abel then asks whether Kang Gyoma already knows who Abel is. The question catches Kang Gyoma off guard, because everyone knows Abel. No student at the academy could possibly fail to recognize Abel. Kang Gyoma vaguely says he knows Abel, without showing much interest. Abel points out that Abel knows nothing about Kang Gyoma. She considers it unfair that Kang Gyoma recognizes her while remaining a stranger. Kang Gyoma disagrees, since they have only just encountered each other. To him, exchanging names is unnecessary after such a brief meeting. Abel counters that Kang Gyoma might secretly be a Demon King spy. She suggests a disguised student could be infiltrating the academy. Kang Gyoma being alone outside this late makes the suspicion understandable. Abel is alone outside this late at night, prompting Kang Gyoma's suspicion. Although Abel rambles strangely, the conversation soon turns back toward Kang Gyoma. Abel asks why Kang Gyoma remains outside so late at night. His clothes and weapon make her recent training obvious. Abel explains that breathing exercises keep her occupied after training. While pointing at him, Abel accidentally exposes the scars across her hands. Abel quickly conceals them, though Kang Gyoma has already noticed. Those marks reveal the relentless effort Abel pours into her training. Abel agrees, since people expect someone like her to work hardest. Others never understand the burden carried by the Nibelung bloodline. Its members must remain flawless, performing at their absolute best. A single mistake can immediately turn them into targets. Abel then admits she is not this year's highest scoring student. For the first time ever, Abel loses to someone else. Strangely, that defeat leaves Abel feeling unexpectedly liberated. Even so, Abel desperately wants to know who surpassed her. Abel says meeting that person would let her tear them apart. Kang Gyoma coughs in shock and asks why she would go so far. Abel answers that losing leaves leaves her feeling deeply humiliated. She even begs her grandfather to reveal the winner's identity. Unfortunately, the victor does not even belong to her class. That person also skips the ceremony speech entirely. As a result, Abel must deliver the speech in their place. Standing there as second place makes the humiliation even worse. Abel finally stops herself before the complaint grows any longer. Kang Jioma finds it strange that Abel shares this much. They have only just met, yet Abel reveals everything. Kang Gioma asks why Abel speaks with him at all. Her personality and usual attitude toward people make the choice puzzling. Abel's answer surprises Kang Gioma because she thinks he looks weak. Her family motto demands resistance toward the strong and mercy toward the weak. Since her classmates are already unbearable, Abel has no friends. That attitude explains Abel's cold treatment of Kang Gioma in the game. Abel stretches lightly, then prepares to leave the conversation. While rising, Abel pauses and asks whether he will share his name. Kang Gioma refuses again, leaving no room for negotiation. Time passes, and Kang Gioma's academy life continues without trouble. Chloe makes several new friends and settles comfortably into class. Kang Gioma stays busy by avoiding Chloe since the incident in her room. Whenever their eyes meet, Chloe's friends glare at him disdainfully. His special entrant status gives them another reason to look down. Kang Gioma eventually stops caring about those contemptuous looks. He is not the class's only special entrant anyway. There are few special entrants and they carefully avoid one another. Some kind of inferiority complex clearly exists among them. Kang Gioma believes a higher tier class would make everything far worse. Students in the Star and Dragon classes likely form competing factions. Petty struggles for influence probably consume those students already. Even during the game, Kang Gioma finds that situation shocking. Living inside this world makes imagining it send shivers down his spine. At least Kang Gioma now receives proper meals every day. Medea provides that improvement through something she gives him earlier. Being the school's top scorer earns Kang Gioma a faculty card. The card lets him choose any cafeteria meal without paying. Kang Gioma feels so grateful that 3 daily office bows seem insufficient. He also fulfills his student responsibilities without causing trouble. Kang Gioma carefully avoids actions that could damage the main storyline. Maintaining this routine for 3 years should let his life proceed smoothly. The days pass peacefully with Kang Gioma attending every class. During one lesson, an elderly teacher introduces the academy's founding hero. The hero establishes the school after recognizing the need for future heroes. Kang Gioma already knows most of this from playing the game. That legendary founder once confronts the Demon King's right-hand commander. The commander leads the First Legion and fights with overwhelming authority. Their battle continues for 20 years before the hero prevails. The hero loses one of his arms. That sacrifice secures victory, yet leaves the hero permanently unable to fight. Carnage and blood consume the war. Despite the hero winning that battle, neither humanity nor demonkind can claim true victory in the wider conflict. Thus, the first war between humans and demons concludes with a truce. The hero establishes the academy to prepare the coming generation. Both races also sign a pact forbidding aggression against each other. That agreement preserves 700 years of peace, lasting into the present. Every student confidently believes war will never return during their lifetime. Only Kang Gioma knows this long peace will eventually collapse. Centuries of quiet have made such confidence perfectly understandable. Medea is the one person Kang Gioma wishes he could warn. Warning Medea would disrupt the established story and create unknown consequences. Medea often complains about carrying the academy director's responsibilities, yet her perception blessing makes her among the earliest to sense danger. Determined to protect her students, Medea reaches the battlefield first. She becomes the first among the 7 stars to confront the threat. Kang Gioma never progresses far enough in the game to witness this. Instead, he discovers Medea's eventual fate through the game's community wiki. Medea becomes the first of the 7 stars killed in battle. Her death comes while fighting the Demon King's advancing army. Knowing her future makes concealing the coming war painfully difficult. Kang Gioma wishes he had never discovered that terrible information. Class ends and the students stream into the halls toward a disturbance. Kang Gioma senses that the story's true beginning has finally arrived. He pauses amid the commotion and checks the date on his phone. As expected, the screen confirms that today is May 5th. This is the exact day Leon finally enrolls at the academy. Kang Gioma joins the students crowding around the classroom doorway. Everyone stares in amazement, already predicting Leon will enter the star class. Just as expected, Leon strides through the packed academy corridor. Students separate around Leon, clearing a path without being asked. Leon carries himself with unmistakable confidence among his fellow cadets. Kang Gioma knows this arrival begins dismantling 7 centuries of peace. All across the academy, students openly shower Leon with fascinated attention. None of this surprises Kang Gioma, who remembers the game's events. Within the game, seemingly every woman becomes captivated by Leon. With an adult rating, Leon might exhaust himself long before demonkind does. Even the women eventually joining Leon's party possess remarkable abilities. The thought annoys Kang Guillaume, despite those companions' obvious strength. 3 years from now, Leon becomes one of the earliest conscripts. Kang Guillaume calls it conscription, though it functions like mandatory enlistment. Being selected too would mean serving in the military for a second time. The original hero barely succeeds in sealing the first army commander. That struggle leaves Kang Guillaume wondering how powerful the Demon King truly is. Surely Leon cannot possibly lose when that confrontation finally arrives. While Kang Guillaume worries, his gaze suddenly meets Leon's across the hallway. Leon offers him a charming smile, unaware of Kang Guillaume's thoughts. The expression almost feels like a quiet promise that everything will work. Leon stands at the story's center, so he should overcome these dangers. Kang Guillaume turns away, intending to leave the crowded hallway behind. A voice unexpectedly calls to Kang Guillaume from somewhere behind him. Chloe approaches timidly and asks whether she has done something wrong. Kang Guillaume wants to mention how Chloe nearly severed his head. Still, they must spend the entire coming year studying together. Creating lasting awkwardness between them would make that year unbearable. He claims nothing is wrong, hoping their relationship remains civil. Avoiding needless hostility also keeps Kang Guillaume from gaining another enemy. Chloe visibly relaxes and returns to the adorable manner he remembers. Her sweetness sharply contrasts with the murderous lunatic Kang Guillaume previously faced. Even while unconscious, Chloe displayed swordsmanship saturated with unmistakable sorrow. Her blade seemed to beg desperately for someone to rescue it, yet its overwhelming desire to kill made Kang Guillaume's skin prickle. If Chloe's technique exists purely for killing, she surpasses the dangerous siblings. Chloe interrupts his thoughts by offering to make dinner again tonight. She wants to repay him, despite admitting his cooking is much better. Her invitation immediately revives Kang Guillaume's memories of that murderous bloodlust. Instinct urges Kang Guillaume to reject the dinner invitation immediately. Unfortunately, Chloe's pleading eyes prove frighteningly effective against his resolve. Refusing such an adorable expression feels nearly impossible for Kang Guillaume. He even feels guilty for having considered turning Chloe down. Yet accepting could leave Kang Guillaume waking inside a refrigerator tomorrow. Instead of dinner, Kang Guillaume suggests another way to spend time together. Kang Guillaume asks Chloe for a special favor. Only Chloe can possibly fulfill this request for Kang Guillaume. Those words instantly soften Chloe and make her unusually obedient. Kang Guillaume asks Chloe to teach him swordsmanship. After all, Kang Guillaume already needs a sword instructor. Later, Kang Guillaume tests his limits on the academy training grounds. Kang Guillaume repeatedly swings a wooden sword through the air. As expected, the weapon's current size never triggers his blessing. Now Kang Guillaume only needs to develop actual swordsmanship skills. Chloe's incredible strength makes her the ideal instructor. Training also provides Kang Guillaume another excuse to avoid Chloe's dinners. Each night afterward, Kang Guillaume watches a video about surviving a yandere. Somehow, its advice helps Kang Guillaume manage Chloe for now. Chloe approaches wearing casual clothes and a katana at her hip. Kang Guillaume arrives exactly when their 8 o'clock meeting begins. Chloe, though, has waited there since 6:30. For a moment, Kang Guillaume quietly admires Chloe's appearance. Her crop top clearly reveals Chloe's powerful muscles. School uniforms had always hidden that impressive physique from Kang Guillaume. Those muscles finally explain the source of Chloe's overwhelming strength. Kang Guillaume hands Chloe another wooden practice sword. Chloe looks confused because Kang Guillaume brought no real blades. Using genuine swords during ordinary training would be absurdly dangerous. Neither fighter intends to risk death during this lesson. Consequently, real weapons have no place in their practice. Chloe happily accepts the wooden sword and tests its swing. Her first thrust sends a small shockwave crashing between them. Even the surrounding air trembles beneath Chloe's frightening power. Kang Guillaume begins regretting his choice of sword instructor. For now, Kang Guillaume decides extreme caution is necessary. Kang Guillaume checks his blessing once more before training begins. Thankfully, the wooden sword's length still causes no problems. His body has also continued growing at a steady pace. Still, blessings improving through experience seems strangely unusual. Kang Guillaume cannot remember whether blessings carry additional side effects. Kang Guillaume also cannot predict when the mysterious hit trait appears. Chloe approaches Kang Guillaume and asks what is bothering him. Her question reminds Kang Guillaume that only he sees the status screen. From Chloe's perspective, Kang Guillaume must appear lost and irrational. Kang Guillaume turns toward Chloe and prepares to begin training. Nervously, Kang Guillaume asks Chloe for gentleness on their first day. Kang Guillaume raises his wooden sword and faces Chloe directly. During his previous life, Kang Guillaume learned everything through practical experience. Mastery, Kang Guillaume believes, demands more than partial dedication. True mastery requires sacrificing every part of yourself. That harsh training helped Kang Guillaume adapt quickly at the academy. His former class taught Kang Guillaume these demanding lessons. From childhood, Kang Guillaume learned to recognize growth and stagnation. Even now, Kang Guillaume detects flaws throughout his sword stats. His grip on the wooden sword also remains imperfect. Regardless of those flaws, the final stroke must reach its opponent. Kangyoma opens his eyes and begins the duel. Chloe is already charging toward Kangyoma at full force. Kangyoma barely dodges Chloe's explosive opening strike. Chloe immediately changes stances and unleashes another attack. This time, Kangyoma narrowly parries the incoming wooden blade. As their duel continues, Chloe somehow becomes increasingly faster. Kangyoma can barely match Chloe's relentless pace. Worse, Chloe might actually be following his request and holding back. Their wooden swords collide again with tremendous force. This impact finally causes Kangyoma's weapon to crack. Chloe's relentless barrage continues without losing any speed. Kangyoma desperately parries and dodges every incoming strike. A single direct hit from Chloe could genuinely kill Kangyoma. Yet Chloe's assault leaves Kangyoma no opening for retaliation. Kangyoma cannot even determine how to counterattack. Finally, Kangyoma's battered wooden sword snaps in half. Chloe hurriedly apologizes for destroying Kangyoma's practice weapon. Chloe insists she attacked as gently as possible. Despite that restraint, Chloe still managed to break the sword. Unfortunately for Chloe, the broken weapon now meets the blessing's conditions. Its reduced size and length activate Kangyoma's sword god blessing. Something about this particular activation is terribly wrong. Damage to the wooden weapon creates an error within the system. Normally, a suppressive force restrains the blessing's full power. Instead, that suppressive force begins altering Kangyoma's personality. Once the alteration finishes, Kangyoma's humanity level drops sharply. The sword god's blessing fully awakens as Kangyoma faces Chloe. His half-broken wooden sword hangs forward while a threatening aura gathers around him. Chloe retreats, watching Kangyoma's entire demeanor shift before her eyes. Kangyoma's body moves automatically, while his mind returns to an earlier life. Inside his old kitchen, everything resembles a strange and hazy dream. A fish lies before him, demanding all his attention for cleaning. He cannot remember anything beforehand, knowing only that work must continue. Since fish preparation has been absent for some time, he chooses a Chinese cleaver. A system notice appears when he tries lifting the cleaver. The message says that weapon cannot be picked up. Kangyoma reaches for another knife, but the system rejects that one too. Only the sashimi knife remains available within the system's restrictions. He remembers that holding it should cause terrible pain. Kangyoma grips the sashimi knife, yet nothing hurts at all. Instead, a strange freshness spreads through him as his body relaxes. A voice inside his head urges him to accept everything and release it. Outside the dream, Kangyoma advances toward Chloe with the knife. Chloe calls to him, but his approach carries unmistakable murderous intent. He suddenly charges, forcing Chloe to block with her sword. The impact drives Chloe backward until she crashes against a wall. Kangyoma now feels utterly unlike the opponent she faced during practice. He springs forward and thrusts the stake's pointed end toward her. Chloe barely leaps away, avoiding the stabbing attack by a narrow margin. One hit has landed, yet Chloe can scarcely move her body. She cannot understand Kangyoma's sudden transformation or its terrifying cause. Chloe must end the spar before he kills her by accident. She begs him to stop again, but Kangyoma offers no reply. He launches another attack, moving too quickly for her weakened body. With no escape available, Chloe keeps pleading for him to stop. She finally screams Kangyoma's name as the sword descends toward her head. Within the dream, Kangyoma questions why the fish keeps evading his cuts. The fish bounces wildly, making sounds that are difficult for him to understand. Its muffled cries gradually resemble someone calling out a particular name. The noise sharpens until Kangyoma can hear the fish calling him. His thoughts clear as he understands that he is Kangyoma. The fish has been calling for him, pulling him back from the dream. He understands this just as his broken sword nears Chloe's body. Kangyoma throws the weapon, burying it in the wall beside her. The discarded sword stops him from accidentally killing Chloe. Chloe opens her eyes and finds Kangyoma holding her safely. He smiles down at her, no longer gripping the wooden weapon. Without the sword in hand, the blessing ends and his senses return. Chloe nervously asks whether Kangyoma is alright. He calmly says he is fine, then thanks her for training. Kangyoma leaves, and Chloe eventually returns to her dormitory. Since the entrance exam, Chloe has sensed something unusual about him. Kangyoma's abilities seem stranger than genuinely powerful to her. During their fight, Chloe sees raw instinct instead of practiced technique. Even his unconscious blessing activation leaves Chloe utterly outmatched. That damaged wooden sword still lets Kangyoma overpower her completely. Across campus, a shadowed figure watches Chloe and remarks on her satisfaction. The newcomer is Nox, Chloe's older brother. Nox ridicules Chloe for associating with someone beneath her after entering the academy. Chloe understands he means Kangyoma and defends her friend. Nox admits he has only learned Kangyoma's name now. He warns Chloe to stop lingering with him or the Aditor family will erase him. Chloe turns away away, insisting even the Aditor family cannot defeat Kang Jeoma. Her departure leaves Nox wondering how Kang Jeoma changed his sister so drastically. On his walk home, Kang Jeoma reflects on the blessing's true nature. The power feels nothing like divine favor from a benevolent god. To Kang Jeoma, it resembles a curse more than a blessing. He searches for different weapons because he refuses to depend on it. Yet that power follows him, seizing control despite every effort to escape it. It commandeers his body, seemingly mocking every attempt to resist depending on it. During his fight with Chloe, pain vanishes and intoxicating pleasure replaces it. Like a curse, the supposed blessing plays with Kang Jeoma like a puppet. Sweet whispers urge Kang Jeoma to slash, carve, and destroy everything. Under that influence, Kang Jeoma surrenders control until Chloe's screams pierce the haze. Her voice suddenly reminds Kang Jeoma of his own name. That memory pulls Kang Jeoma into reality and briefly restores his consciousness. Kang Jeoma immediately hurls the wooden sword away from himself. Keeping it any longer feels certain to erase more of Kang Jeoma forever. The irony is absurd, since yandere Chloe nearly killed Kang Jeoma recently. Yet Chloe is now the person who rescues Kang Jeoma from that trance. Kang Jeoma was furious when Chloe originally broke the wooden sword. Deep gratitude replaces that anger in the end. That gratitude keeps Kang Jeoma from causing trouble after regaining his senses. Although terrified of another activation, today's ordeal proves this problem cannot stay ignored. This unwanted gift demands Kang Jeoma's attention for the rest of his life. It also makes Kang Jeoma's dream of ordinary living seem nearly impossible. Kang Jeoma practically crawls home, sensing something within him devouring his reason. This power is no blessing, but a curse determined to consume Kang Jeoma. 3 days later, classes proceed normally while Chloe chats with her new friends. Still, something about Chloe's behavior is clearly wrong. Kang Jeoma has missed every class since the duel with Chloe. They never exchanged contact information, leaving Chloe unable to check on him. Each visit to Kang Jeoma's dorm yields only anguished groans behind the door. Chloe considers breaking inside, but fears Kang Jeoma would hate her. During class, Chloe loves watching Kang Jeoma from her usual seat. She has lost count of her secret glances throughout each day. Initially, Chloe blames her attraction on Kang Jeoma risking his life for her. That explanation now feels more like an excuse than the truth. Whatever draws Chloe toward Kang Jeoma now, she simply misses him. The next day, Kang Jeoma remains absent as the instructor demands silence. Rain cancels outdoor training, so the instructor announces study hall instead. While students find their seats, the instructor notes Kang Jeoma's prolonged absence. Knowing Kang Jeoma, the instructor assumes some valid reason must exist. The instructor chooses to wait patiently for Kang Jeoma's voluntary return. As the instructor disciplines the class, the doors slowly creak open. Kang Jeoma strolls inside calmly, sporting a startlingly different appearance. Chloe rises from her seat, staring at Kang Jeoma in shock. Kang Jeoma calmly apologizes to the instructor for arriving late. His eyes appear hollow and almost lifeless beneath his exhausted expression. One strand of Kang Jeoma's hair has also turned pale white. Even the instructor looks startled, mirroring the reactions of every student. Nervous and uncertain, the instructor tells Kang Jeoma to take his seat. Several students whisper that Kang Jeoma looks different and strangely more handsome. At day's end, the other students leave to handle their own business. Chloe approaches Kang Jeoma for the first time in 4 days. With a trembling voice, Chloe asks what happened and why Kang Jeoma disappeared. After a brief silence, Kang Jeoma claims he was merely sick. Kang Jeoma asks Chloe not to worry, but her shaky voice exposes disbelief. Nothing more Kang Jeoma says could genuinely convince Chloe. For 3 days, severe withdrawal-like symptoms leave Kang Jeoma mentally exhausted. Unable to leave or eat, Kang Jeoma remains buried beneath his bedding. There, Kang Jeoma desperately prays for the violent convulsions to finally stop. The agony is worse than before, payment for wielding that broken weapon. In the mirror, Kang Jeoma's overall appearance initially seems unchanged. Yet Kang Jeoma's expression looks deeply hollow, while his hair begins whitening. These changes unmistakably represent a penalty imposed by the sword god. Chloe looks guilty because their last meeting happened at the training grounds. She apparently believes Kang Jeoma's condition somehow resulted from her actions. To reassure Chloe, Kang Jeoma asks whether she still wants dinner together. Kang Jeoma specifically means the dinner Chloe had requested earlier. The dinner invitation shocks Chloe even more than Kang Jeoma's classroom return. She nearly rushes forward and throws her arms around him. Her delighted reaction confirms that inviting Chloe was the right decision. Chloe eagerly asks Kang Jeoma what he wants to eat. Fish is the first answer that enters Kang Jeoma's mind. During their conversation, an unfamiliar sensation suddenly passes through Kang Jeoma. He turns and spots somebody watching from the hallway's far end. The silent observer is Chloe's brother, Nox. His appearance immediately turns the warm atmosphere cold and tense. Rather than tolerate the staring, Kang Jeoma marches straight toward Nox. He tells Nox to come inside and speak with them directly. Up close, Kang Jioma notices something deeply unsettling about Nox's eyes. Chloe wedges herself between them, hoping to prevent something reckless. Her voice trembles, and every hesitant movement betrays her fear. Despite that fear, Chloe still tries protecting Kang Jioma her own way. Nox asks whether Kang Jioma merits breaking their assassin clan's rules. Chloe declares that she wants no further connection with her family. Nox counters that she cannot simply scrub blood from her hands. Anyone born into their assassin clan remains one of them forever. Chloe sounds rebellious while Nox speaks like some ancient nobleman. Kang Jioma merely finds their dramatic exchange incredibly irritating. Nox keeps insulting Kang Jioma until Chloe finally loses her temper. She shouts that Nox must stop degrading the man she loves. Even Nox looks startled by the fury behind Chloe's declaration. Kang Jioma had hoped this confrontation would remain reasonably restrained. Still, these disruptions are becoming an ordinary part of his life. What matters more is understanding the assassin clan behind Chloe. Kang Yaman knows they operate secretly and specialize in killing targets. They enter midway through the game and eventually play a crucial role. Though weaker than other heroic houses, their assassination skills remain unmatched. Every member of the clan possesses absurd physical strength. Brutal training begins during childhood and shapes them into advanced killing instruments. That background makes Chloe's sweet, lively personality the true abnormality. Nox wears the unmistakable expression of someone accustomed to killing. Kang Jioma does not condemn that trait by itself, yet Chloe clearly wishes to live an ordinary life instead. Like Kang Jioma's sword god blessing, Chloe never chose her environment. Her assigned future demands a life as an emotionless murderer. To Kang Jioma, that destiny seems painfully unfortunate. Kang Jioma never considers himself heroic and never intends to become heroic. Even without saving the world, he can rescue one girl's life. He steps between Chloe and Nox, then confronts Nox directly. His attempt to escape the sword god's blessing has already failed. Now Kang Jioma chooses to advance and accept that curse. After all, Kang Jioma's name carries the meaning of sword demon. He passes both assassin siblings and orders Nox to follow him. The bald instructor sits inside his office, preoccupied with Kang Jioma. Kang Jiooma's arrival in class that morning clearly followed some serious incident. His face showed no emotion, and deep trouble clouded his appearance. A cheerful instructor enters the office while those concerns occupy him. The cheerful instructor also jokes about the bald instructor's bare head. An administrative call interrupts their conversation almost immediately. Officials request permission for one of his cadets to use subspace. The bald instructor urgently demands to know which cadet applied unexpectedly. They identify Kang Jioma, who requested a match against Nox. The subspace arena is prepared for Kang Jioma and Nox's fight. Kang Jioma waits patiently with 15 minutes remaining until the match. He expected gaining subspace access to involve a complicated approval process. Instead, everything moved forward with surprising speed. Medea's involvement clearly helped arrange such swift approval. She at least wants Kang Jioma protected while facing a professional assassin. Because the battle is simulated, physical injuries pose no concern. Mental damage still remains a serious and fairly likely possibility. Winning makes every one of those dangers irrelevant to Kang Jioma. Noise from the arena reaches him inside the waiting room. Their upcoming duel has attracted far more attention than either intended. Kang Jioma finds the situation bitterly ironic. After avoiding attention earlier, all those previous efforts to remain unnoticed now feel utterly pointless. Beside him, Chloe practically sinks beneath overwhelming grief and guilt. Chloe is probably blaming herself for causing this entire confrontation. Kang Jioma assures Chloe that none of this is truly her fault. He adds that Chloe has already helped by lending him something. Chloe says Nox is formidable, and everything should still turn out fine. She calls Nox the strongest genius in his family's entire history. In that field, nobody reaches Nox's level. At 14, Nox already earns the title Pinnacle of the Dark Arts. The title sounds painfully dramatic, but his power makes it understandable. Kang stares at the rose-colored blade, remembering every decision leading here. His former teacher always said a blade would define his whole life. Even reincarnation could not free Kang from carrying a sashimi knife. The speakers announce that the subspace battle is about to begin. Kang rises from the locker room, reassuring Chloe once more that he'll win. The arena doors open and excited classmates erupt into deafening cheers. The intensity makes Kang feel like a gladiator entering Rome's empire. Across the distance, the entire star class watches from the stands. The game's main cast is there among the star class spectators. Nox enters and immediately draws Kang's attention. Nox appears offended that Kang challenges him with a feminine kitchen knife. Nox's killing intent feels dangerous, making provocation seem especially unwise. Kang naturally worsens matters, saying a true master never blames equipment. Nox draws 2 Hongrian blades, an S-rank sword. His equipment is formidable, and Blessing of the Crow ranks among the game's finest auras. Kang arrives armed with 2 dual discount grade kitchen knives. It promises to be an absurd duel for the ages. The subspace barrier deploys, but both students leap forward immediately. Kang triggers the painless blessing while uncovering both knives. That motion awakens the sword god's blessing. The stands watch in awe, barely following movement inside the arena. This easy match should have seen an assassin demolish a special admission student. Their speed instead leaves students unable to track either fighter. Star class members are stunned by the fight's sudden excitement. Abel especially cannot accept the supposedly weak cadet's fighting ability. Blades keep colliding, while Kang slips effortlessly around Nox's attacks. Frustrated, Nox launches a strike, producing 3 afterimages. The attack seems to hit Kang directly, yet Kang remains unharmed. Spectators praise Nox's speed and strength, seeing only Kang flee. Abel alone understands what those spectators cannot perceive. Only viewers with clear sight recognize Kang's flawless evasions. Kang dodges every attack perfectly, barely seeming to fight Nox. Nox grows more furious after activating Blessing of the Crow. Nox expected that power to annihilate Kang on the spot. Kang somehow handles the entire assault as casually as nothing. Seeing Kang's skill firsthand, Nox becomes more cautious. Nox chooses a massive strike capable of slicing across a broad area. Kang drops the sashimi knife he brought into battle. He grips Chloe's rosy blade instead, the one she gave him. Confidence in Kang's stance makes Nox even angrier. Nox believes a nobody like Kang has no right acting important. Kang begins charging his attack, and Nox prepares a decisive blow. Nox aims his single strike technique directly at Kang. Kang attacks first, and the outcome is settled in an instant. Kang only wanted a comfortable life, so he followed rules quietly. He tried to avoid attention and keep himself from standing out. Now Kang surrenders his body to the sword god's control. His sole purpose is cutting Nox so cleanly the cut escapes notice. The crowd falls into a deathly silence. Nox's severed arm sails through the air, still clutching a blade. It drops limply onto the arena floor. This moment marks Kang Guillaume's origin and farewell to a peaceful future. Kang turns and completes the attack, slicing Nox into pieces. The battle officially ends as Nox is cut apart. The subspace barrier shuts down, yet the crowd remains stunned and silent. Nox braces both arms against the arena floor, struggling to recover his breath. Kang Guillaume sheaths his blade as the announcer names him victorious. The crowd cannot even cheer, but their silence hardly surprises Kang Guillaume. He unleashed startling power using nothing more than a fish-gutting knife. Despite his strength, Kang Guillaume still finds cutting people deeply unpleasant. One thought comforts him: these battles occurred safely within the subspace. Thus, neither the two brothers nor Nox truly died there. Nox remains grounded and breathless, earning Kang Guillaume's sincere admiration. Chloe's assessment was correct because Nox possesses tremendous strength. Experience has also sharpened Nox's combat instincts to an extraordinary degree. Yet his murderous aura broadcasts his intentions for anyone to read. The announcer proclaims Kang Guillaume's victory again, finally breaking everyone's stunned daze. Cheers and disbelief erupt throughout the arena after that second declaration. A special admission first year has defeated a second-year cadet. Kang Guillaume's quiet, inconspicuous school life is now officially finished. Still, he knowingly chose this road for himself. Since events reach this point, only raw grit can carry him onward. Even the following day, students keep discussing the first-year versus second-year duel. In Star Class, Abel gazes outside, preoccupied by one particular cadet. Lately, Kang Guillaume has occupied nearly every corner of Abel's thoughts. Following the duel, Abel hears Kang Guillaume's name everywhere he goes. It seems the entire academy discusses nobody else anymore. Seeing Kang Guillaume fight had left even Abel unable to believe it. Using only 2 kitchen knives, Kang Guillaume displayed astonishing swordsmanship. That mastery makes Abel's confidence in his own sword skills seem painfully naive. Kang Guillaume seems so exceptional that Abel suspects his grandfather hid this top student. That suspicion only deepens Abel's frustration over their earlier conversation. Abel had treated Kang Guillaume as weak, despite Kang Guillaume actually surpassing him. Abel's irritated outburst becomes loud enough to wake his seatmate Rachel. He apologizes, though Rachel instantly notices something serious is troubling him. Abel blames his mood on being unable to exercise lately. Rachel sees through that excuse without the slightest difficulty. She offers several guesses, searching for the true source of his frustration. Her boy trouble guess lands perfectly, exposing Abel's hidden concern. Rachel bursts into unrestrained laughter, imagining Abel interested in romance. Throughout her teasing, Abel insists Rachel has misunderstood everything. Rachel disregards him and starts identifying whoever has unsettled her dear friend. She begins with Leon, the handsome standout of their class. Abel's flat reaction makes it painfully obvious Leon is not involved. That leaves yesterday's special student, whose strength stunned the whole academy. Once again, Abel freezes and cannot produce a direct denial. His silence gives Rachel every answer she needs. Without hesitation, Rachel grabs Abel's hand and pulls him toward Tiger class. She intends to meet the cadet occupying everyone's thoughts. Rachel barges inside while a reluctant Abel trails behind her. Every student freezes when the academy's two celebrated beauties cross the classroom. Rachel climbs onto another student's seat, drawing an immediate reprimand. A classmate approaches and scolds her for suddenly invading someone's desk. Rachel flashes her beauty, leaving the would-be disciplinarian utterly confused. Abel can only clutch his head, mortified by Rachel's behavior. Eventually, Rachel spots Kang Gyoma asleep at his desk as Chloe dotes nearby. She initially assumes Chloe is Kang Gyoma's girlfriend. That possibility bothers Rachel little and only makes everything more entertaining. Rachel approaches Kang Gyoma and tenderly blows into his ear. The brazen gesture shocks both Abel and Chloe. As Kang Gyoma slowly awakens, Rachel perches flirtatiously on his desk. Wearing a teasing expression, she asks Kang Gyoma to tell her his name. Kang Gyoma already recognizes Rachel and feels no excitement about her appearance. Another game heroine has abruptly arrived directly in front of him. Leaning closer, Rachel presses one finger against Kang Gyoma's cheek and praises his looks. Kang Gyoma simply stares back, too shocked to respond. He understands nothing, yet his instincts scream that this situation is dangerous. Rachel prepares another playful poke, but an angry Chloe seizes her hand. Chloe demands an explanation for Rachel's behavior. Her rage and murderous pressure only leave Rachel amused. Kang Gyoma understands his warning instincts were actually reacting to Chloe. Chloe's entire personality has now abruptly flipped. Rachel summons a box cutter from her hidden yandere pocket dimension. A classroom knife fight could create serious trouble for Kang Gyoma later. This combination never appears in the game, leaving Kang Gyoma baffled. Abel arrives, trying to pull Rachel away from the unfamiliar classroom. Rachel refuses to move, claiming she only came here to greet them. Rachel rests a palm on Chloe's head and gives her a scolding. Rachel says Chloe should not interrupt while adults are speaking. That insult pushes Chloe's anger even closer to the breaking point. Chloe opens the cutter and lunges, ready to stab Rachel. Kang Gyoma and Abel watch helplessly as Chloe attacks. Rachel catches Chloe's wrist effortlessly, overpowering her with pure strength. Rachel keeps needling Chloe, practically begging her to start another fight. Abel shouts again, ordering Rachel to stop before disaster follows. Rachel scowls, then flings Chloe aside as easily as loose paper. Chloe twists mid-air and lands safely instead of hitting the floor. The boys in class erupt, thrilled by the sudden catfight. Kang Gyoma feels irritation rather than excitement at the ridiculous spectacle. Rachel activates the blessing inherited through her clan's foundation. Her clan teaches that overwhelming strength makes every skill meaningless. They believe brute force ultimately defeats every other advantage. As the Spear Saint's niece, Rachel follows that principle without hesitation. Rachel bluntly asks Kang Gyoma whether Chloe is his girlfriend. Kang Gyoma immediately denies it, redirecting Chloe's fury toward himself. He explains that Chloe is only his friend. Rachel's curiosity grows stronger as the strange exchange continues. Kang Gyoma still cannot understand what caused this entire commotion. Now more alert, Kang Gyoma finally notices Abel standing nearby. Abel looks just as shaken as Kang Gyoma felt moments earlier. Kang Gyoma asks directly why the girls came looking for him. Rachel claims Abel wanted to meet him and see his face. Abel loudly rejects the accusation, insisting Rachel dragged her there. Rachel misunderstood Abel's interest and followed her toward Tiger class. With every classmate watching, Abel timidly tries explaining the misunderstanding. Kang Gyoma only wants both girls to leave the room. His blunt dismissal shocks Chloe and Rachel alike. Rachel barely suppresses her laughter, becoming even more intrigued by him. Rachel enjoys men who behave in unexpected and interesting ways. After class, Rachel invites Kang Gyoma to her dorm. She suggests they spend private time together doing something indecent. That invitation finally snaps the last thread of Chloe's patience. Chloe orders Rachel to move away from her Kang Gyoma immediately. Rachel teases Chloe again, amused by her possessive reaction. Abel reaches her limit and grows visibly furious at Rachel's flirting. Sensing the confrontation approaching its limit, Rachel finally retreats. Rachel promises Kang Gyoma they will meet again later. Kang Gyoma rejects that idea and tells Rachel not to return. Rachel and Abel eventually leave the classroom together. Kang Gyoma immediately falls asleep again while Chloe checks on him. Nobody notices Abel pause, gazing longingly at Kang Gyoma. Abel then turns away and continues walking. Abel and Chloe head back toward their own classroom. Rachel remains fascinated by Kang Gyoma's unusually forceful attitude. Coldness alone would not explain the warning hidden in his eyes. Those hollow eyes hint that continued provocation could cost Rachel her throat. Rachel had only wanted to investigate him, yet Kang Gyoma sends chills. From that brief encounter, Rachel sees he surpasses Star Class's polished pretenders. Her clan aggressively seeks marriages with the strongest available warriors. Rachel considers Kanjioma a valuable prospect worth securing. Rachel suddenly turns around and apologizes to Abel. Abel assumes Rachel means to apologize to Tiger Class's students. Rachel clarifies that her apology concerns Kanjioma instead. Now interested, Rachel warns Abel that she will no longer yield. At the school clinic, Nox drags himself angrily through the corridors. Every thought in Nox's mind centers on killing Kanjioma. Nox has never experienced defeat throughout his entire life. People constantly praise Nox as an auditory genius, yet kitchen knives alone were enough for Kanjioma to defeat him. Remembering Kangioma's face sends Nox's anger boiling higher. His clan's power and prestige have reached an extraordinary level. If necessary, Nox will mobilize every member to behead Kanjioma. Once Kanjioma dies, Nox believes Chloe will return to him. Chloe could someday equal or even surpass Nox's own remarkable talent. He refuses to lose her to some unknown special admissions nobody. One command should bring his entire clan crashing down upon Kanjioma. In Nox's imagination, that overwhelming strike should settle everything. Reality looks different, with Kanjioma calmly eating an apple inside Nox's clinic room. Earlier during class, Kanjioma watches Chloe with growing concern. The other two girls have departed, yet Chloe remains visibly distressed. Strangely, Chloe was still the first person to draw a blade. Violent thoughts churn inside Chloe while Kanjioma approaches to soothe her. He believes conversation might prevent whatever breakdown is approaching. Still, he wishes Chloe would lower the box cutter while they talk. Kanjioma asks Chloe how Nox has been doing. Saddened, Chloe says her brother is staying in the academy's medical ward. That makes little sense because subspace injuries cannot physically carry over. Nox should have no actual wounds requiring treatment. Chloe only knows he entered the ward despite showing no injuries. She insists everything is fine, leaving Kanjioma no reason to worry. Yet Kanjioma cannot dismiss the strange situation. Subspace blades shredded Nox, but trauma alone should not break him. Nox simply is not weak enough to collapse from that experience. To prevent further trouble, Kanjioma decides to check on Nox. First, he asks Chloe which room her brother occupies. Kanjioma sweetens the request by gently patting Chloe's head. He learned that trick from a guide series about handling obsessive girls. That choice leads Kanjioma into Nox's private clinic room. Kanjioma now faces Nox, who remains shocked by his arrival. Eyeing the luxurious room, Kanjioma marvels at Nox's family's wealth. One patient receiving such lavish accommodation seems especially extravagant. Nox starts questioning how Kanjioma entered the room. Instead of answering, Kanjioma lifts a skinning knife from the bedside counter. Nox instantly tenses, suspecting Kanjioma plans to finish their fight. Kanjioma merely takes another apple and peels it with perfect precision. After removing the skin, he calmly returns the apple to the table. Kanjioma rises, passes Nox, and recommends fruits and vegetables for health. The casual advice only drives Nox's fury even higher. Nox slides a concealed knife from beneath his sleeve. He prepares to stab Kanjioma when his guard finally drops. Seemingly anticipating everything, Kanjioma warns Nox against pursuing revenge. Any attempt will get Nox and his entire clan carved apart. Kanjioma leaves, slamming the door with startling force. The peeled apple suddenly falls into neatly separated slices. Kanjioma had cut it too quickly for Nox to notice. Kanjioma exits the medical unit, hoping his mission has succeeded. In his estimation, Nox is now a fragile flame, easily snuffed. Nox's fighting spirit appears utterly shattered by Kangioma's theatrical intimidation. Kanjioma only hopes that reckless performance never rebounds against him. Nox's clan consists of exceptionally dangerous assassins. 30 seconds of pain neutralization cannot carry Kanjioma through everyone. He could probably defeat 10 opponents within those 30 seconds. Facing every remaining clan member would be another matter entirely. Thankfully, that possibility belongs only to the worst possible scenario. Kanjioma would rather avoid killing anyone whenever possible. Moonlight follows Kanjioma along the path toward his dormitory. Strangely, he feels calm at the center of a gathering storm. This bizarre new life is gradually becoming familiar to him. If Nox stays quiet, events should not spiral too wildly. Another problem remains: Rachel, the girl Kanjioma most wanted to avoid. Originally, Rachel approaches Abel, the game's main character, and grows attached. Rachel has approached Kanjioma instead, proving the timeline has drastically changed. Midterms also demand preparation, and Kanjioma must finally take them seriously. He needs a strong performance to secure the promised reward. The exam assigns 5 students to subdue 1 demonic monster. Those 5 may come from any class without restriction. This structure is designed to place teamwork above everything else. Personal strength matters, but battlefield trust between comrades matters even more. Weaker cadets must choose reliable teammates and hope those partners carry them. Fortunately, the monsters themselves should not pose much of a challenge. Their targets are D-rank demonic monsters known as mermen. Kangyoma remembers their revolting appearance from the game. Seeing those creatures in person will surely be even more nauseating. Mermaids would at least provide something pleasant for everyone to see. Mermen, by comparison, offer nothing except scales, stench, and ugliness. Yet mermaids belong among demonic humans, the demon army's primary force. That classification also makes mermaids vastly stronger than ordinary demonic monsters. Beside demonic humans, demonic monsters resemble mere guard dogs or pets. Thankfully, the island should contain mermen, and no demonic humans. A full month of academy life now lies behind Kangyoma. Tonight finally brings Kangyoma his first small taste of peace. 700 years have passed since humanity and demonkind declared a truce. Human history contains wars, and this truce has suffered disputes too. Those clashes between both factions have ranged from minor to enormous. Half a century ago, the 6th Legion's commander makes a dangerous declaration. The commander announces plans to resurrect the 1st Legion's commander. That decision ignites 7 days of fighting across the city. Blood floods the streets until humanity ultimately claims victory. From that brutal conflict, the 7 heroes are born. 3 heroes are sacrificed, leaving neither faction eager for further escalation. Apart from that catastrophe, the truce has endured until today. Still, Kangyoma questions whether this situation truly qualifies as peace. One thought makes the supposed tranquility feel especially fragile. 7 centuries ago, someone single-handedly sealed the 1st Legion's commander. That lone warrior must have possessed strength beyond ordinary human limits. Defeating the 6th Legion's commander required 7 people working together. Even that united group suffered fatal losses during the battle. Only 3 years remain until the 2nd Human-Demon War begins. This coming war will also bring the Demon King into battle. Such a future terrifies Kangyoma, but worrying changes nothing. For now, Kangyoma must concentrate entirely on the approaching midterms. His first challenge is recruiting teammates for the 5-person test. Finding partners proves difficult because Kangyoma has no friends. Still, Kangyoma is currently the Academy's most famous student. Perhaps that reputation can become useful and solve his recruitment problem. Remaining unnoticed for the next 3 years is clearly impossible. Kangyoma consequently revises the personal rule guiding his academy life. Living quietly is abandoned, while living comfortably remains the goal. With that decided, Kangyoma actively tries attracting potential teammates. 1 week passes, yet Kangyoma remains entirely by himself. Not one cadet has invited Kangyoma into a group. Apparently, his frightening reputation scares everyone away instead. Scanning the classroom, Kangyoma notices only Chloe sitting alone. Perhaps Chloe became an outsider after her brother's confrontation and defeat. Her behavior when Rachel appeared could also explain the isolation. Whatever the cause, Kangyoma approaches Chloe and asks about partners. Chloe, just like Kangyoma, still has nobody beside her. Her situation genuinely worries Kangyoma, despite his own recruitment troubles. Solitude is familiar territory for Kangyoma, unlike Chloe. Chloe previously had friends, but every one of them has vanished. She insists everything will be fine, while Kangyoma remains nearby. Kangyoma proposes they partner together and recruit 3 more cadets. Chloe's formidable abilities would make her an invaluable teammate. Kangyoma can only maintain his combat strength for 30 seconds. Chloe packs the force of 30 soldiers into one adorable package. The classroom's calm shatters when Rachel charges inside, calling Kangyoma. Kangyoma openly displays his displeasure at seeing Rachel again. Chloe reveals equal hostility while drawing a box cutter. Rachel keeps pestering Kangyoma and even collapses across his desk. She asks whether Kangyoma has joined any midterm group. Since Rachel ignores his objections, Kangyoma simply answers her question. His lack of teammates happens to suit Rachel perfectly. Rachel immediately invites Kangyoma to join her existing group. The sudden invitation naturally makes Kangyoma suspicious of Rachel's intentions. Countless capable students would eagerly accept a place beside Rachel. Kangyoma cannot understand why Rachel specifically approaches him. Rachel plainly says Kangyoma seems more entertaining than her classmates. Kangyoma explains that Chloe has already become his teammate. That presents no problem because Rachel's group still has 2 vacancies. Even so, Kangyoma remains wary of Rachel's unusual choice. Accepting them creates a far greater academic risk for Rachel. Their poor performance could damage Rachel's island test grades. Kangyoma looks toward Chloe, silently requesting her opinion. Though clearly reluctant, Chloe nods and accepts joining Rachel's group. With no remaining obstacle, Kangyoma finally gives Rachel his answer. Kangyoma confirms he will join, and Rachel immediately grabs her phone. She warns Kangyoma that withdrawing later is no longer an option. Curious, Kangyoma asks which other cadets belong to their group. Rachel names Leon first, instantly filling Kangyoma with dread. Leon is this world's false protagonist and Kangyoma's least desired companion. Kangyoma wonders which past life crimes earned him such dreadful fortune. Granted, he spent 30 years handling knives, but cooking was his livelihood. Some unknown force keeps dragging him into situations involving the heroines. Despite avoiding attention, Kangyoma remains entangled with the central storyline. At least the heroines are beautiful enough to make their involvement tolerable. Getting tangled with pretty girls hardly feels like the worst fate. The real source of Kangyoma's anxiety is Leon himself. As the main character, Leon could overturn the entire plot through one interaction. Kangyoma cannot predict how future events will unfold anymore. Still, he expects every resulting disaster will somehow become his fault. Kangyoma even attempted to transfer into another exam group. Unfortunately, Rachel submitted his application before bothering to consult him. For once, Kangyoma genuinely wants to bring his blade down on a girl. A greater concern remains. Chloe, the yandere sharing Kangyoma's class. Chloe appears beside him and asks why he looks so petrified. Apparently, his troubled expression has remained there since Rachel departed. Kangyoma claims the thought of testing beside Star Class cadets overwhelmed him. Chloe insists nobody within Star Class possesses greater strength than Kangyoma. Her confident praise earns only a weak expression of gratitude. Kangyoma did personally choose Chloe as his original teammate. Taking the examination without her would now violate his conscience. Viewed rationally, Kangyoma could hardly find more capable teammates. This arrangement might actually help him, assuming he controls his pessimism. Kangyoma asks when and where their first group meeting begins. Chloe answers that everyone plans to gather at an on-campus cafe. With meeting time approaching, Kangyoma suggests heading there immediately. They arrive first, then Kangyoma and Chloe each order drinks. Chloe selects a delicious avocado smoothie for her own refreshment. Kangyoma watches enviously, knowing one cup costs an outrageous amount. His cheap espresso tastes dreadful enough to make his entire body revolt. Because an outside company operates the cafe, faculty cards are unusable. For the first time, Kangyoma must spend his personal money. While reconsidering his choices, Kangyoma feels his phone suddenly vibrate. Rachel's message announces that she has arrived at the cafe. Not long afterward, Rachel enters the booth with Leon and another cadet. Kangyoma and Leon finally meet each other for the first time. Kangyoma then studies the unfamiliar person standing beside Leon. His first impression paints the unknown cadet as some kind of delinquent. Leon introduces himself first, extending one hand toward Kangyoma. Kangyoma accepts the handshake, and Leon praises his recent subspace battle. Leon specifically mentions the fight Kangyoma had several days earlier. From Leon's speech alone, Kangyoma senses both intelligence and refinement. Everyone takes a seat, and Rachel proposes holding proper introductions. Leon begins by identifying himself as their leader and a Star Class student. Somehow, Leon ended up receiving leadership over this particular group. His eagerness to cooperate with everyone sounds entirely sincere. Rachel introduces herself next, though everybody present already knows her. Because introductions are unnecessary, Rachel passes attention toward her neighbor. The cadet identifies himself as Speedweapon, another student from Star Class. Speedweapon keeps his introduction remarkably brief and directly focused. Kangyoma finds Speedweapon's unusual name far more interesting than his introduction. Chloe follows, introducing herself as a student from Wolf Class. She explains that Kangyoma helped her enter this examination group. Rachel mocks Chloe's overly affectionate way of addressing Kangyoma. The two girls lock eyes in a tense, silent confrontation. Chloe eventually exhales, regains her composure, and finishes her introduction. Finally, Kangyoma offers only his name and class as introduction. His remarks somehow prove even shorter and blunter than Speedweapon's. The others visibly acknowledge Kangyoma's painfully awkward introduction. Leon opens a laptop and directs everyone toward the meeting's main subject. One button summons a holographic map showing their examination region. The displayed location is an island designated specifically for their examination. A subspace transfer will send them toward an assigned point on the island. Leon explains that only the gateway itself exists within subspace. On the island, every sensation becomes real, including wounds from demonic beasts. Their assigned territory covers the island's northeastern coastline. 3 groups, including Leon's, will hunt mermen throughout that region. Because their population is limited, teams must hunt as many as permitted. Leon concludes the briefing and invites questions from everyone. Speedweapon speaks first, asking whether the island contains any other dangers. The instructors surveyed the island beforehand to identify every possible threat. Their research confirms only mermen inhabited among monsters and demons. Chloe then asks whether groups may ambush and fight one another. Her unexpected question visibly shocks every other member of their group. Leon calmly explains that the examination exclusively targets demonic beasts. Any conflict between participating groups will result in immediate disqualification. Kangyoma suspects Chloe's assassin habits inspired that alarming question. With nobody else asking anything, Leon dismisses the assembled cadets. He orders them to prepare for their approaching midterm examination. confusion. Their next group discussion will take place on the following day. Everyone leaves the cafe except Leon and Kang Gyoma. The awkward silence pushes Kang Gyoma toward making a quick departure. Leon suddenly stops him and asks where he originally came from. Kang Gyoma pauses, pondering the strange and unexpectedly personal question. He has heard similar words before, yet Leon's meaning feels fundamentally different. Leon's deadly serious expression offers no clues about his thoughts. He could have asked during their earlier introductions. Instead, Leon deliberately waited until every other cadet had departed. After the prolonged silence, Leon apologizes for asking so abruptly. He simply cannot suppress the feeling that Kang Gyoma resembles him. This world's official language is Korean because the game originated there. Still, that fact does not mean other cultures are absent. Anyone could recognize Kang Gyoma as Korean with a single glance. That makes Leon's question and claim of similarity even more bewildering. Kang Gyoma remains silent, struggling to understand their increasingly bizarre conversation. Leon tells him to forget everything he just heard. He rises from his seat and starts leaving the cafe. Kang Gyoma stops Leon and throws the same question back. The reflexive response brings Kang Gyoma immediate regret. Yet without an answer, he knows sleep will elude him tonight. Leon calmly takes Kang Gyoma's hand and says he comes from Germany. He leaves without another word, deepening Kang Gyoma's confusion. Kang Gyoma wonders what suddenly caused Leon's unsettling behavior. Leon's original question suggested one outrageous possibility to Kang Gyoma. Perhaps the game's central character also arrived from another world. The idea sounds absurd, but it remains entirely possible. No rule says this game can only abduct one outsider. Possessing its central character seems likelier than inhabiting an insignificant extra. Kang Gyoma notices the covered knife resting upon his table. The sight gives him an idea for testing Leon's identity. His senses become strangely sharper whenever the sword god's blessing activates. Perhaps invoking that blessing could provide the answers he needs. Kang Gyoma lifts the knife and removes its protective covering. A message immediately enters his mind, exactly as he hoped. The message confirms that Leon genuinely originates from this world. Its voice resembles what Kang Gyoma heard while fighting Chloe. Activating the sword god's blessing lets him faintly hear that voice. Trying to examine it triggers a migraine beyond even painless protection. Regardless, today's Leon is unquestionably the same Leon from the game. No actor could imitate Leon's behavior with such flawless precision. Asking his country without warning remains strange enough. Claiming that they share some similarity feels even more troubling. Kang Gyoma searches a wiki but finds no information about Leon here. Everything is growing stranger, so Kang Gyoma makes a firm decision. This will be his final involvement with Leon. If it happens again, Kang Gyoma can simply consult Medea. He will also ignore Medea's attempts to flee together with him. Kang Gyoma feels surprised by his calmness throughout these recent developments. Perhaps his status screen is also influencing his composure. As usual, the displayed figures suggest his progress remains smooth. His mental fortitude and armament statistics have not changed. Consistent training has increased his physical fortitude. His armament should also rise after obtaining the midterm reward blade. Only the meaning of his assimilation rate remains uncertain. That rate has climbed considerably and seems near unlocking something special. He suspects the coming unlock connects to something, but his thought trails off. Not knowing what his efforts have triggered still irritates Kang Gyoma. Worse, nobody else can explain it to him either. A new detail appears at the status screen's bottom. His blessing of painlessness gains 10 seconds, extending its duration to 40 seconds. At last, all those grueling efforts appear to have produced results. As days pass, groups repeatedly gather to plan their exam battle strategies. Kang Gyoma spends the remaining time training and sharpening his abilities. At last, the long-awaited examination day arrives. Every group assembles before the subspace gate, awaiting entry. Kang Gyoma senses an atmosphere unlike the training ground subspace. His teammates arrive soon, visibly sharing his excitement. Their earlier meetings established each member's position and responsibilities. Rachel takes the front as their primary damage dealer. Leon holds the center, leading while keeping the formation together. Speed Weapon stays behind Leon and handles support duties. Chloe fights beside Rachel as the secondary damage dealer. Kang Gyoma guards the rear, completing their well-balanced formation. He pauses to examine everyone's impressive and powerful equipment. Rachel carries an S-rank armament, the Vermilion Phoenix Halberd. Leon has not obtained his target blade, but carries another powerful sword. Speed Weapon's equipment, surprisingly, turns out to be a recorder. Kang Gyoma jokes that support apparently includes providing musical entertainment. Rachel explains this recorder belongs among the few healing S-rank armaments. Even Kang Gyoma knows healing equipment of that rank is extraordinarily rare. Owning such an exceptional armament is an incredible privilege. Curious, Kang Gyoma moves closer for an inspection, startling Speed Weapon. Their conversation ends when an announcement sounds over the intercom. The first-year midterm examinations are now about to begin. The The Wolf-class instructor approaches his assembled students for final guidance. Since everyone understands the rules, the instructor keeps his remarks brief. He urges them to flee freely whenever circumstances become dangerous. Extra credit offers no worthwhile reason to gamble with their lives. Anyone injured or ready to surrender can call the supervising instructor. With the examination beginning, he wishes them luck and discourages nervousness. Chloe looks anxious, prompting Kangama to ask what's troubling her. She remembers that mermaids may appear somewhere on this island. Kangioma again assures her that instructors already confirmed everything's safe. Chloe tries trusting his reassurance, but her unease refuses to fade. Mermaids often appeared around her homeland and caused devastating destruction. Humans now maintain a truce with demonic beings, limiting sightings outside dungeons. Yet the enduring rumors suggest mermaid appearance conditions remain poorly understood. Kangioma rests a hand on her head, gently calming her. Teachers then summon every cadet forward to pass through the gate. Chloe smiles and chooses to place her faith in Kangioma. Much later, Chloe hears Kangioma calling through her mental haze. She appears to have lost focus briefly, with everything suddenly overturned. Opening her eyes, Chloe finds the group confronting something huge and powerful. Rachel asks whether Speedweapon has managed to reach the supervising instructor. Inside the cave, Speedweapon's phone cannot establish any connection. Nearby, an unidentified person lies bleeding on the ground in obvious danger. The source of this abrupt disaster looms directly before them. The terrifying culprit is unmistakably a mermaid. Their path into this nightmare began earlier on the island. Immediately after arriving, their group suffers motion sickness from the gate. Only Kangiama remains comfortable, claiming motion sickness never affects him. Soon, the group experiences its first encounter with a merman. The creature stares in surprise briefly, then scurries away. Despite its disgusting appearance, it is far smaller than Kangioma expected. Leon confirms this undersized merman cannot earn their team any points. Finding an adult requires traveling toward their designated area. Chloe advances first to scout while everyone follows more slowly. Eventually, the group reaches the assigned location, and Chloe returns from scouting. She reports finding a cave roughly 500 meters ahead. Chloe then guides the team toward that ominous cavern. Before anyone enters, dozens of eyes stare from the dark, ominous cave. Leon estimates that 50 to 60 mermen occupy the cave. Inside the cave, the mermen gather closely around a blazing campfire. Defeating this many enemies would certainly secure first place during midterms. Still, the team's safety must remain their highest priority. Entering the cavern would sever internet access and hinder contacting an instructor. This dangerous gamble promises great rewards, but carries equally serious risks. Ultimately, the decision rests entirely with their appointed leader, Leon. Before reaching the island, Leon carefully assigned each teammate an appropriate role. Now, Leon must guide everyone toward victory once again. After briefly considering everything, Leon orders Rachel to begin their assault. Rachel bends backward and fires a gleaming golden spear inside. Her projectile strikes the campfire directly, extinguishing it and startling every merman. The mermen barely turn around when Rachel suddenly descends among them. Within seconds, several severed merman heads fly through the darkened cavern. Speedweapon acts next, concentrating power to strengthen Rachel's combat abilities. That enhancement allows Rachel to eliminate the scattered enemies much more easily. Kangioma gasps aloud, stunned by Rachel's overwhelming strength. Chloe immediately notices Kangioma's admiration and draws her katana. Activating her blessing, Chloe charges forward to battle the merman too. She races to match Rachel's total, cutting down increasingly more opponents. Rachel and Chloe slaughter enemies while rapidly closing the distance between them. Neither woman slows down even as they approach a dangerous collision. Kangioma worries that neither intends to stop or change direction. They come within inches, then suddenly pivot away from each other. Their simultaneous strikes kill the final merman charging between them. Rachel and Chloe separate afterward, continuing their assault upon the remaining enemies. Watching them avoid disaster, Kangioma finally releases his anxious breath. His concern for both women proves unnecessary in the end. Their combined efforts eventually leave all 60 mermen dead inside the cave. With the battle finished, Leon proposes continuing the exam somewhere else. Leon's determination and leadership make him the true heart of their team. Those qualities further convince Kangioma that Leon remains the game's real protagonist. Nobody else could possibly reproduce such distinctly heroic qualities. Lost within those thoughts, Kangioma briefly looks away from Leon. Kangioma glances back as Leon collapses with a fatal stomach wound. Everyone freezes in horror as something powerful emerges behind Kangioma. The creature rises from the gruesome mound of fallen mermen. It is a demonoid mermaid, exactly what Chloe feared might unexpectedly appear. Kangama suspected their progress had been far too smooth. Now they must choose between fleeing and standing their ground. Escaping safely may be impossible while they protect the severely injured Leon. Rachel orders Speedweapon to alert the instructors about the demonoid mermaid. Just as Kangioma feared, the cavern disrupts their internet connection. Without internet access, contact contacting any instructor becomes entirely impossible. Panic grips everyone except Kangyoma, who somehow maintains his composure. With Leon incapacitated, only Kangyoma can assume command of the team. Stepping forward, Kangyoma begins issuing urgent orders to his teammates. He commands Rachel to keep the merman away at any cost. Next, Speed Weapon must pour every available healing blessing into Leon. Finally, Kangyoma calls out to Chloe, who appears mentally absent. He orders Chloe to evacuate the other cadets and notify the instructors. His instructions take several moments to penetrate Chloe's dazed mind. Eventually, Chloe departs to carry out everything Kangyoma requested. Once everyone receives clear instructions, Kangyoma approaches the demonoid mermaid. His teammates stare in disbelief as he confronts the monster alone. Kangyoma tells Rachel and Speed Weapon to handle the remaining mermen. As a chef, carving enormous fish has always been Kangyoma's specialty. Naturally, Kangyoma declares the demonoid mermaid should belong to him. Demons possess a unique force resembling the blessings wielded by humans. That demonic ability is called magic, and its power already defeated Leon instantly. Such overwhelming strength exposes the enormous gap between demons and humans. Kangyoma possesses the sword god's blessing, but survival remains uncertain. Even within the original game, magic-wielding demons required an entire party. Yet Kangyoma now faces alone a boss normally demanding a massive raid. Put simply, Kangyoma is trapped in a catastrophically dangerous situation. Despite those odds, retreat is no longer an available option. Chloe should need approximately 10 minutes to locate help and return. Unfortunately, Kangyoma has only 40 seconds to defeat the demonoid mermaid. Failure would leave Kangyoma facing an even worse fate than Leon. Rachel struggles against the merman while Speed Weapon concentrates every scrap of power. Speed Weapon pours every remaining ounce of power into healing Leon. Leon's wound runs deep, yet it steadily closes anyway. Despite the daunting healing work, Speed Weapon keeps watching Kangyoma. Merely seeing the mermaid chills Speed Weapon's bones, yet Kangyoma stands alone. The demon attacks first, firing the same laser that defeated Leon. Kangyoma evades the beam and charges forward with his knife. The mermaid appears to favor ranged attacks carrying water magic properties. Kangyoma understands little magic, but she still has flesh and bones. To win, Kangyoma only needs to close in and cut her. Leaping into range, Kangyoma slashes, but the mermaid slips aside. Instead of counterattacking, she rushes directly towards Speed Weapon. Kangyoma catches up and severs one fin, making her scream painfully. The cut barely penetrates, leaving the wound disappointingly shallow. Kangyoma attacks again, but she evades and liquefies into water. Targeting Speed Weapon confirms that she deliberately hunts anyone already injured. Leon has partly recovered, and Speed Weapon urgently calls Kangyoma. Speed Weapon appears unharmed when Kangyoma pauses to check him. Reassured, Kangyoma immediately returns to battling the mermaid. In Speed Weapon's eyes, Kangyoma suddenly looks incredibly cool. During one meeting, Speed Weapon described admiring heroes who sacrifice themselves for others. Since entering school, Speed Weapon has found nobody truly deserving that title. Speed Weapon joined Rachel's group, hoping Leon might become that long-awaited hero. Speed Weapon even bluntly told Kangyoma that he fell far short of heroism. Yet amid this madness, Kangyoma risks his own life for everyone. The mermaid resumes attacking, launching fish-shaped magic blasts toward Kangyoma. Kangyoma skillfully avoids them, but they abruptly turn and pursue him. Under the mermaid's control, those blasts chase Kangyoma throughout the cave. While Kangyoma stays occupied, the demon prepares another strike against Speed Weapon. Kangyoma intercepts her and slashes, interrupting the attack's launch. Once again, his blade leaves nothing beyond another shallow wound. Repeated small cuts will never bring this demon down. To kill her permanently, Kangyoma must drive his blade deeply. The mermaid fires another blast, but Kangyoma dodges this one. Missing him, the blast punches through the cave ceiling and reaches skyward. Cadets across the mountain see the beam and hear a thunderous roar. As if that were not enough, rain begins falling. One group's instructor urges everyone to carry the wounded and move quickly. They must escape before the rain begins affecting them. Inside the cave, the mermen withdraw, granting the cadets brief relief. Falling debris from the shattered ceiling buries the mermaid beneath rubble. Kangyoma remains certain that the collapse has not killed her. As expected, the mermaid erupts from the rocks and charges the students. Concern for Leon has prevented Kangyoma from fighting properly until now. With the merman gone, Kangyoma entrusts Leon and Speed Weapon to Rachel. Speed Weapon still cannot believe Kangyoma faces a demon alone. Once considered a madman, Kangyoma now resembles a legend being born. Kangyoma feels relieved because his teammates no longer divide his attention. Only 10 seconds remain on Kangyoma's painless blessing. Kangyoma must recover the wasted time or die here. After a tense stare, Kangyoma and the mermaid charge into their final clash. Chloe races through the forest at full speed, desperately searching for help. Exhaustion overwhelms Chloe, but stopping would endanger everyone she abandoned behind. Her body aches terribly, and every faltering step brings Kangyoma to mind. Kangyoma remains inside that cave, fighting the monster alone for everyone. To Chloe, Kangyoma is the strongest person she has ever known. Kangyoma clearly dislikes fighting and avoids drawing his blade whenever possible. He only chooses battle when absolutely no other option remains. Kangyoma chose the best course by confronting the mermaid himself, knowing that Chloe must give everything she has to finding help. Still, Chloe wishes greater strength might have let her help somehow. Behind Chloe, a deafening blast tears apart the cave's outer wall. Chloe knows exactly what that violent eruption signifies. The battle's thunder follows Chloe as she races through the cave. She trips over a vine, nearly falls, then catches herself on the ground. Chloe keeps running, refusing to stop before finding someone who can help. Something waits ahead, though the confusion clouding her mind blurs its shape. Her first thought is that several mermen are blocking her path. Chloe draws her sword and strikes at the nearest figure. That stranger blocks her attack with a sword of his own. The swordsman is Abel, not one of the creatures she feared. After finding another person, Chloe freezes and collapses onto the ground. Abel's teammates grow suspicious, sensing a possible ambush nearby. Chloe weakly urges them to hurry toward Kangyoma and help. Abel remembers Chloe from her earlier visit to Kangyoma's class. Rachel had accompanied Chloe during that visit to the class. Deep inside the cave, Speedweapon stares at the battle in awe. Speedweapon wonders whether any future day could astonish him this much. Kangyoma handles the fight like a master slicing a living fish. This has surpassed an ordinary clash with a demonoid. Kangyoma is crushing the creature beneath overwhelming swordsmanship. Speedweapon knows this spectacle will remain carved into his memory forever. Even Rachel, heir to her clan, has never witnessed such skill. Her upbringing among powerful people still offered nothing comparable. Rachel shoves Speedweapon aside when a stray strike comes toward them. The intensity nearly makes Speedweapon forget the cave surrounding them. Kangyoma's enemy wields magic, making a knife's matchup unfavorable. Kangyoma holds the advantage now, but that advantage may not last. An unavoidable spell could place Kangyoma in serious danger. That concern arrives as the mermaid lifts both hands skyward. The mermaid names its next spell Needle Squall. Rain surrounding them crystallizes, freezes, and leaves the cavern suspended. When the mermaid lowers a hand, frozen needles plunge toward Kangyoma. Kangyoma evades several shards and knocks away the rest. Each remaining crystal is too hard, and his knife begins splintering. Kangyoma throws the damaged blade straight at the mermaid. It slices through the mermaid's side, opening a huge wound at its waist. Kangyoma follows with a forceful slash aimed through its flesh. The mermaid slips aside and lets a merman's body distract Kangyoma. Using that distraction, the mermaid gathers a colossal attack directly ahead. The blast is too close, leaving Kangyoma no route to evade. His panic spikes as the attack rushes toward him. His consciousness suddenly arrives in a clear, empty space. There, a red line marks the precise path his cut must follow. A voice tells Kangyoma that slicing the line will sever the attack. Kangyoma changes his grip instead of trying to escape. He cuts through the incoming magic with the knife. The severed spell releases a tremendous shockwave across the cavern. Smoke dissipates, revealing Kangyoma standing over the mermaid's corpse. The dying demon makes several final noises. Kangyoma kicks the body back into the pool below. Rachel and Speedweapon stare at the unbelievable result in stunned silence. A freshman has somehow defeated a demonoid without anyone's help. Kangyoma drops to his knees and coughs blood. Rachel reacts first, rushing over to support Kangyoma. Speedweapon checks Leon and finds the cadet thankfully unharmed. Then unfamiliar sounds rise from behind them. Speedweapon turns, expecting the merman that fled earlier to return. Abel appears instead, carrying unconscious, injured Chloe with his team. Abel first notices Rachel gently caressing unconscious Kangyoma. The sight inexplicably angers Abel, though he pushes that feeling aside. Abel surveys the area and sees his teammates barely surviving. Leon alone looks entirely fine among the battered group. Abel reports contacting the Academy for emergency assistance. The Academy will reach them in 1 hour to provide aid. With rescue coming, Abel demands an account of what happened. Abel orders Speedweapon to explain the events. Speedweapon remains irritated by the Academy and its instructors. They had claimed to inspect the island thoroughly. Speedweapon doubts the Academy will believe his account anyway. Even so, Speedweapon begins describing everything he witnessed. He gives Abel a basic summary of the battle. He explains that Kangyoma defeated the mermaid entirely alone. As Speedweapon expected, Abel can barely accept what he hears. The wild stories Abel's grandfather told sounded more realistic than this. As absurd as Speedweapon's account sounds, the surrounding evidence supports every word. They also have no reason to fabricate such a bizarre claim. Still, Abel cannot bring himself to accept the truth. Abel descends from a celebrated hero and that hero's devoted disciple. That extraordinary ancestry granted Abel a unique attribute from birth. His bloodline carries immense promise, talent, and expectations. Abel works relentlessly so his famous roots never eclipse his achievements. Despite every advantage and all his progress, Kangyoma remains overwhelmingly superior. The enormous difference fills Abel with fear, dread, and reluctant admiration. He orders the group healer to treat Kangyoma until instructors arrive. A closer inspection shows Kangyoma battered and barely clinging to life. Yet Kangyoma defeated a demonoid without anyone else's help. Abel gazes at that impossible accomplishment with unmistakable envy. Speed Weapon breaks his trance and recommends withholding the battle's full details. The Academy supposedly inspected the island thoroughly ahead of this exam, yet a demonoid occupied a cave any cadet could easily notice. Too many pieces of this incident simply refuse to fit together. Leon bluntly asks whether someone connected to demon factions infiltrated the Academy. He immediately backtracks, admitting those words missed his intended meaning. Even so, nobody can entirely dismiss that disturbing possibility. The cave's obvious location remains impossible for ordinary cadets to overlook. As Speed Weapon notes, Leon's group would be shredded without Kangyoma. Large and minor clashes both occurred throughout the 700-year truce. Never once, though, did demons dare attack the Academy's cadets. The truce even declares such an attack sufficient grounds for war. Speed Weapon interrupts their spiraling suspicions and says they are exaggerating. Watching for a possible Academy spy is perfectly reasonable. Jumping to that conclusion already would still be dangerously premature. For now, everyone must ensure their accounts match exactly. Any hidden spy would target Kangyoma once his victory became known. Abel dislikes concealing something this serious from the Academy. Still, Kangyoma fought desperately to protect every member present. Since everyone else agrees, Abel proposes consulting his grandfather first. The cadets return to school while Kangyoma enters a hospital. Bright evening sunlight touches his face when he finally awakens. Kangyoma feels almost astonished that he survived. His final memory is the dying mermaid launching a magical sphere. He could not evade it, although he barely perceived its path. Using his sashimi knife, Kangyoma sliced through a visible line. The spell split neatly in half, then erupted apart. Thinking back, Kangyoma identifies the sphere as water magic. Activating the sword god's blessing also produced an indescribable sensation. To investigate, Kangyoma summons the blessing status screen again. It shows his mental fortitude has risen by 1 point. That increase likely kept fear from controlling him against the mermaid. His assimilation rate also climbed enough to reveal a mysterious attribute. Another attribute unlocks when his assimilation rate reaches 15%. Perhaps this hidden ability revealed the red line through the mermaid's spell. While Kangyoma considers this, his door suddenly opens. A familiar figure rushes straight into the hospital room. Medea immediately traps Kangyoma inside an intensely tight embrace. She anxiously fusses while Kangyoma struggles to breathe through the squeeze. Medea eventually releases him and quickly apologizes. Then she explains the real reason for her visit. Reaching through her purse, Medea opens a dimensional storage pocket. She withdraws the exam reward Kangyoma desperately hoped to earn. It is the coveted B-rank sword with exceptionally powerful statistics. The weapon matches exactly what Kangyoma has been seeking. Kangyoma stares in disbelief as Medea asks whether he likes it. She regrets presenting it this way instead of through an official ceremony. An unseen observer quietly watches their entire exchange from the doorway. Medea calls out, ordering the lurker to enter instead. She mocks him for hovering outside like a painfully shy creep. Sieg clears his throat and steps inside with sheepish hesitation. He comes to a stop beside Medea. The visit gives Kangyoma an eerie echo of his academy arrival. Kangyoma asks why the Sword Emperor has come here too. Medea says she learned the whole story from Kangyoma's teammates. Together, Medea and Sieg bow and apologize for the entire academy. They accept responsibility for everything that went wrong during the midterms. The academy's negligence nearly cost every person there their life. Kangyoma cannot find any words while Medea continues speaking. She promises they will expose the truth behind the disaster. Sieg also thanks Kangyoma for rescuing the endangered cadets. Nervously scratching his cheek, Kangyoma says he only did what he could. Medea praises his extraordinary actions but insists the incident remain hidden. She suspects the culprit is inside the academy and watching closely. They must prevent any details from reaching the public. Kangyoma understands and bears no resentment toward their decision. Smiling, Medea says he sometimes resembles an old man inside a teenager. Medea and Sieg leave the room and return toward the administrative block. Crossing the halls, Medea asks whether Sieg remembers their first meeting. They had just enrolled at the academy when their paths crossed. Back then, Sieg lounges across a bench until Medea orders him aside. Without saying anything, Sieg responds by drawing his sword on her. Sieg now pretends he remembers none of it. Medea answers his performance with a faint, knowing smile. The memory feels recent, though 60 years have already passed. Even their 6 decades cover less than 1/10 of the Academy's history. When they enrolled, the Academy was already ancient and steeped in history. Through crises large and small, it has sheltered cadets for 700 years. Without warning, Medea's mood darkens as her aura shatters nearby windows. Before the midterms, reports confirmed several preliminary surveys of the island. Although sightings were rare, mermaids were known to appear around its shores. Knowing this, Medea ordered every possible safeguard for her precious students. Despite those precautions, something horrific still happened under her supervision. Sig places a calming hand upon Medea's shoulder. Medea regains control and gives Sig an apologetic look. An instant later, her fury vanishes and breathless admiration takes over. Medea marvels that Kangyama defeated a mermaid alone, then requests Sig's opinion. Sig has encountered naturally gifted people more times than he can count. He has watched supposed champions of their eras lose their inner light. In glory-hungry heroic families, people fling the word genius around carelessly. Even faint promise earns children that title because of their bloodline. Sig even forbids that label for his own grandchild, Abel. Yet Kangyama's unfathomable talent might truly deserve the word genius. With enough experience, Sig wonders how far Kangyama might climb. Kangyama may even reach heights that Sig could only dream about. Sig walks past Medea without directly answering her excited question. He only advises Medea to remain at the academy for now. Medea smiles, catches up, and continues chatting with Sig down the hall. Later, Kangyama leaves the hospital and attends class as usual. Following Medea's instructions, his island victory over a demonoid stays secret. Kangyama suspects his classmates seem carefree because he stopped the mermaid. Immediately after his discharge, Kangyama first visited the Academy Forge. He went there to reshape and strengthen his damaged sword. With the sword god's blessing, his current blade feels like a metal rod. That makes reforging the weapon an absolute necessity. At the forge, Kangyama meets the forge master about improving it. Now Kangyama can only hope the enhancement succeeds. While reviewing recent events, Kangyama hears Chloe calling his name. Chloe approaches on crutches with one leg sealed inside a cast. Speed Weapon's emergency treatment has greatly improved Chloe's expected recovery. The doctor expects Chloe to abandon the crutches within 1 week. Despite her injuries, Chloe already appears to be doing much better. Kangyama defeated the mermaid alone, but everyone's efforts ensured survival. Chloe's timely rescue call helped bring everyone home alive. Rachel also contributed by clearing the surrounding mermen. Speed Weapon's healing and blessings proved equally important during the battle. Only Leon failed to play a meaningful role in their survival. Kangyama wonders whether Leon's weak fighting spirit can defeat the Demon King. Perhaps Leon only faltered because he was injured first. Their discussion ends abruptly when their instructor storms into the club. He orders everyone seated for announcements ahead of the training assembly. Once everyone settles, he reveals another instructor will help teach them. The class initially grumbles about such an abrupt change. Their irritation vanishes once the new instructor finally appears. Sig enters with quiet composure, leaving every student utterly stunned. Their instructor respectfully bows as Sig steps inside. Even Kangyama reels when humanity's strongest man visits his class. Elsewhere, someone hurls a battered elder hard against a wall. A furious pink-haired instructor seizes his collar and pins him upright. She slaps him aside, knocking him sprawling across the floor. The battered elder apologizes while she struggles to steady her breathing. The pink-haired instructor commands the Demon Corps' 5th Division. Right now, the pink-haired instructor is anything but pleased. She demands why he refused to cooperate when opportunity arose. His attempted apology earns another vicious blow across the face. The pink-haired instructor has clearly exhausted her patience for apologies. Their entire plot was supposed to return Leon half-dead from exams. Leon may be a hero candidate, yet no lone cadet beats a mermaid. Thanks to the battered elder's failure, Leon now relaxes comfortably at the academy. She kicks his face again, then notices blood staining her shoes. Regret hits instantly, though only because her footwear is now dirty. First year's defeating a full demonoid still seems almost unbelievable. Yet this year's academy newcomers make that outcome less surprising. The battered elder clarifies that only one cadet fought the mermaid. She initially assumes he means Leon, but his answer corrects her. The lone fighter was Kangyama, the academy's highest-ranked student. Hearing that special admission student's name explains everything to her. Now the pink-haired instructor has found fresh prey worth hunting. Unfortunately, her chosen target hardly makes hunting him an efficient task. Wolf class resumes daily drills, while Chloe wears a cast and uses crutches. Kangyama envies Chloe's rest while sprinting desperately beside his classmates. Worse, Sig now shadows Kangyama closely after every lap. Despite his age, Sig moves with startling speed and agility. Sai closes on Kangyama and pushes him to accelerate. He even wonders whether midterm injuries still trouble Kangyama. Seeing the Sword Emperor run beside first years already feels strange. His focus on a special admissions cadet makes it stranger. Sig will eventually inherit the Sword Saint title. He will also rise among humanity's greatest powers. During humanity's second Demon War, Sieg becomes Leon's swordsmanship master. His role grows rapidly throughout the story's latter half. So why is someone this crucial personally training Wolf class? The main storyline has plainly veered away from its intended course. At this point, its structure is practically collapsing. Thinking back, Leon never received the Sword Saint title. That omission caused a major problem during Kangyoma's previous life. Leon can still inherit the Sword Saint family without Sieg's bloodline. In the end, that bloodline issue changes nothing. None of this makes Kangiyama feel less uncomfortable. His classmates keep directing unmistakably jealous looks toward him. Sieg stays so close that they almost appear to run together. Between laps, Sieg also tries teaching Kangiyama warrior fundamentals. He says physical strength and endurance support every warrior's foundation. Talent and brilliance mean nothing when the body cannot sustain them. Once Kangiyama finds motivation, Sieg surges ahead of him. Sieg clearly expects his student to match his pace. After the running laps finish, field training begins. This exercise strictly forbids every student from using personal weapons. Instead, they must practice with weapons supplied by the academy. Their assignment is mastering whichever ordinary weapon they receive. Sieg spills an assortment of weapons across the ground. Among that strange pile, he even spots a sashimi knife. The unexpected restriction leaves the other students visibly surprised. One student asks why inherited family weapons would not work better. Sieg explains that basic technique matters above everything else. Depending too heavily on superior weapons gradually weakens training discipline. Students can easily confuse a weapon's power with personal ability. Ultimately, a true master cannot fault their equipment. Those words strike Kangiroma with particular force. The questioning cadet nods, accepting Sieg's explanation. With casual discussion finished, Sieg orders everyone to choose weapons. They must practice until each weapon's basic techniques become second nature. Skill with ordinary arms greatly improves their chances of earning high marks. Those scores also influence each cadet's promotion review at year's end. That detail electrifies the class, sending everyone scrambling toward the weapon pile. Kangiyama naturally approaches the sashimi knife lying ignored on the floor. Upon lifting it, Kangiyama catches Sieg watching him closely. Armed students regroup, eager to hear their next instructions. Sieg assigns one-on-one cadet training without using a subspace today. To prevent reckless behavior, Sieg proposes demonstrating proper sparring first. Leon braces himself to face Sieg in the demonstration. His frightened trembling makes his utter lack of readiness painfully obvious. Leon considers this the greatest crisis of his entire life. Yet Sieg has already chosen someone else for the match. He summons Kangiyama forward to spar with him. Sieg carries a beginner's weapon, taken from the heap of worn tools. In Sieg's grip, that worthless scrap somehow appears exceptionally sharp. The class remains jealous and baffled by Sieg personally selecting Kangiyama. Kangiyama steps out while resentful stares follow him. First, Sieg asks whether Kangiyama's broken bones have healed. After hearing yes, Sieg commands Kangiyama to ready his blade. Although this is merely practice, Kangiyama finds the situation excessive. Crossing blades with Sieg clearly promises no simple conclusion. Should their match spiral, one of them could lose a hand. With worse luck, somebody's severed head might hit the ground. Despite that danger, divine power seems to awaken his combat instincts. Every nerve inside Kangiyama now hungers for battle. Trying to defuse things, Kangiyama calls himself unworthy of Sieg. He asks Sieg to lower his weapon and abandon the match. Behind him, classmates jeer that Kangiyama is fleeing in fear. Sieg shares their disappointment and challenges Kangiyama's persistent self-concealment. He accuses Kangiyama of bearing both strength and swordsman's pride. Such remarkable talent should never belong to someone living like a coward. Pride has ruled Kangiyama's heart since earning his country's greatest swordsman title. That same conviction has always kept Kangiyama from abandoning his sword. Sieg's taunt is clearly designed to test Kangiyama's restraint. Taking the bait here would burden Kangiyama with lasting regret. Even so, neither his pride nor his fighting urge stays buried. Leon detects Kangiyama's changed presence and hurries to intervene. Sieg blocks Leon, recognizing that Kangiyama has decided. Kangiyama unsheathes the sashimi knife and assumes a fighting stance. For several breaths, both swordsmen silently measure each other. Even at 70, Sieg clearly remembers the insight earned through swordsmanship. Sieg recalls his younger days under a one-armed wandering knight's instruction. That knight's swordsmanship unquestionably touched the threshold of a mysterious realm. Since the allocation test, Sieg has carefully watched Kangiyama. Now Sieg suspects this boy could guide him into that realm. Kangiyama seizes initiative, rushing straight toward Sieg. Ready for him, Sieg welcomes the charge with a cutting swing. Kangiyama dodges quickly, pivots, and launches another another attack. Sieg parries the counter, bringing their weapons together once more. Kang Guillaume boldly attacks head-on, refusing to avoid the incoming strike. Such fearlessness nearly inspires even the seasoned Sieg. Their fierce exchange reveals Kang Guillaume's dramatically improved physical abilities. Kang Guillaume can now drive Sieg backward with startling ease. Sieg's own weapon carries weight, and he refuses to treat this lightly. Other students watch closely, yet none can follow the action. They assume Kang Guillaume merely got lucky against Nox previously. That earlier contest happened during their latest subspace sparring session. Still, Sieg shows unusual interest in an ordinary special admissions cadet. The jealous observers hope Sieg finally teaches Kang Guillaume a crushing lesson. They want the punishment harsh enough to leave Kang Guillaume crying. Several minutes pass, yet both fighters appear motionless, staring each other down. Leon alone understands what is actually unfolding between them. Neither fighter is simply standing idle, as the others believe. They have reached a level their wolf-class instructor once doubted could exist. Before the spar, Leon warns Sieg that Medea discovering it could cause chaos. The fallout might even spread to the Academy's other cadets. Sieg assures Leon he never plans to cross real blades with Kang Guillaume. Sieg already knows Kang Guillaume can enter a unique place called Mental Realm. To withstand Sieg there, Kang Guillaume must exceed every prior assessment. Combat inside Mental Realm becomes a fierce contest of intelligence and will. Their brief clash shows Sieg how astonishingly fast Kang Guillaume is developing. Seeing that growth, Sieg decides he may need another level himself. He invokes the mighty blessing known as Sword Spirit Protection. Even outside Mental Realm, every student feels their crushing pressure. A vivid blue radiance pours from Sieg's sword, unmistakably resembling aura. Their struggle grows so fierce that both burst back into reality. The situation now threatens bloodshed unless Leon intervenes immediately. Leon moves to halt them as both fighters suddenly charge each other. A thunderous shout freezes Kang Guillaume and Sieg just before impact. Medea arrives in time, her fury cracking the ground beneath her. The duel ends and Medea takes Sieg back to her office for discipline. Sieg apologizes, yet Medea refuses to accept any flimsy excuses. She berates him for losing control and challenging an academy student. Medea had struggled greatly to secure his position as an instructor. During that lapse, Sieg unleashed the full force of his aura. A harsher lecture seems certain, yet his reaction tempers Medea's fury. The instant Medea arrived, Sieg faced her and offered an apology. Across their 50-year acquaintance, she has never heard Sieg apologize. Today, astonishingly, he says it not once, but twice. Those apologies alone persuade Medea to hear him out calmly. She bluntly asks why he used Sword Spirit Protection against a student. Without Medea's timely arrival, their reckless clash could have turned fatal. Sieg admits he needed the blessing to gain an advantage over Kang Guillaume. The confession brings Medea's thoughts to an abrupt stop. Sieg's enormous pride makes such an admission almost impossible to comprehend. Medea recognizes Kang Guillaume's natural talent better than most people, yet she also understands Sieg's true strength better than anyone. Sieg then reveals Kang Guillaume has already reached Mental Realm. By comparison, Sieg only mastered that state when he neared 30. Medea can barely accept a 17-year-old achieving the same feat. Sieg cannot explain it, but he cannot deny his own experience. The revelations overwhelm Medea, recalling what happened after she stopped them. She had approached Kang Guillaume immediately to examine his condition. Upon reaching him, her dignity as an educator and 7-star disappears. Medea feels only fear toward Kang Guillaume during that unnerving instant. It resembles the dread she once felt upon meeting 6th Division Commander Nox. She cannot understand fearing someone who remains one of her students. Still, that chilling response lends credibility to Sieg's unbelievable account. Medea directly asks Sieg whether Kang Guillaume defeated him. Usually reserved and composed, Sieg erupts with anger immediately. He shouts that Kang Guillaume's natural gifts could never rival his own. Sieg insists he lacked his full equipment during their confrontation. According to him, that disadvantage alone explains how events unfolded. Medea reminds Sieg that blaming equipment violates his own rule. Besides, equipment hardly excuses struggling against an academy student. His exaggerated outrage only makes Sieg appear increasingly ridiculous. Enraged by her mockery, Sieg starts invoking Sword Spirit Protection again. Medea snaps him back to reason with one firm slap. Kang Guillaume awakens elsewhere after dreaming through his clash with Sieg. Everything concludes safely, though Sieg proves dangerously quick-tempered. Without Medea's intervention, the confrontation could have become genuinely deadly. Experiencing Mental Realm also leaves Kang Guillaume deeply unsettled by its strangeness. Reaching Mental Realm requires complete mastery and understanding of one's weapon. It is an active space, opening only after specific conditions are fulfilled. Such mastery belongs to peak masters devoting their entire lives to one weapon. Fewer than 10 heroes in World Miracles freely enter Mental Realm. Even Leon possesses heroic qualities yet needs 3 years of private training. Kang Guillaume stopped playing the game around that exact point. Yet Kang Gyoma enters mental realm immediately, without years of preparation. His sashimi knife may explain this astonishingly rapid achievement. Across both lives, Kang Gyoma has wielded sashimi knives for 20 years. Each sword god blessing also grants concentration surpassing ordinary perception. His former life and present existence now twist tightly together. That connection helps Kang Gyoma break through every difficult situation. Past experience taught Kang Gyoma that avoidance only worsens looming problems. Instead of drifting helplessly, Kang Gyoma chooses steady, practical solutions. Controlling mental realm may let him train without the sword god blessing. Kang Gyoma rises from bed and slowly unsheaths his sashimi knife. After focusing briefly, Kang Gyoma enters mental realm once again. The entire realm suddenly fractures around Kang Gyoma without warning. A gigantic hand reaches through the broken emptiness toward him. One descending finger gently touches Kang Gyoma's shoulder. The contact breaks Kang Gyoma's trance and floods his knife hand with aura. That mysterious power exceeds the sashimi knife's limits. Unable to withstand the aura, Kang Gyoma's weapon disintegrates. Inside a shadowy chamber, several academy elders argue heatedly. The senior elder, previously meeting the demon commander, challenges his colleagues. The senior elder demands an investigation into Kang Gyoma's possible heroic status. Other elders reject this suspicion because Leon is the recognized candidate. The senior elder counters that Leon remains unfinished and poorly manifests blessings. Kang Gyoma's abilities appeared clearly during the class placement examination. During that test, Kang Gyoma defeated the celebrated genius twins. Medea also suppresses information about Kang Gyoma while claiming student protection. Every strange detail surrounding Kang Gyoma strengthens the case for investigation. The senior elder also condemns excessive interference from the 7 champions. Since Medea became academy director, the elders have lost considerable authority. Following another elder's defeat, public attention favored only the 7 champions. People now dismiss the academy elders as dusty remnants. A hero's appearance would damage the elders' reputation even further. That argument finally wins support from the remaining elders. They also need a public enemy to preserve their power. Every elder agrees the hero threatening the Demon King must die. The senior elder gained his academy position through the purple-haired instructor. That debt drives his relentless campaign to force everyone's agreement. Failure would make the 5th Demon Division commander punish him mercilessly. More forceful persuasion eventually secures the elder's final verdict. Kang Gyoma must be investigated first, then permanently eliminated. To accomplish this, the elders order an assigned family into action. Kang Gyoma already faces another serious problem with his weapon. He glares at the trusted blacksmith, who retreats fearfully. Kang Gyoma hoped the treasured sword could replace his sashimi knives. Somehow, the blacksmith reshaped that single escape route into another sashimi knife. Worse still, the weapon falls from B rank to E rank. Even the blacksmith cannot understand this unprecedented result. 30 years of weapon forging never prepared him for such resistance. During forging, the sword seemingly refused every attempt to shape it. The blacksmith hurriedly melted and reforged the stubborn metal. Despite his skill, the blacksmith barely produced a proper form. An ordinary craftsman would have created only a worthless metal lump. Kang Gyoma's 20 years with knives confirms the craftsmanship is impressive. Its specifications also suit the sword god blessing extremely well. Unfortunately, the transformed knife still possesses only E rank hardness. The weapon retains valuable potential if Kang Gyoma reinforces it. Proper reinforcement would certainly make the knife genuinely useful. Kang Gyoma only needs to supply the necessary reinforcement materials. The blacksmith promises to repair everything without charging anything extra. Still unconvinced, Kang Gyoma angrily asks what happens after another break. The trembling blacksmith insists the E rank weapon holds A rank growth potential. With enough development, the knife could eventually surpass even that rank. A supposedly infallible material can also guarantee the weapon's transformation. That infallible substance only comes from A rank or stronger demonic beasts. A rank demonic beasts rival E rank demonoids in raw fighting power. Accepting this mission means battling another threat comparable to the mermaid. Risking death merely to reinforce equipment sounds utterly ridiculous to Kang Gyoma. After all, even weaker demons can provide usable reinforcement materials. Kang Gyoma demands a promise, and the blacksmith swears upon his professional honor. That settled, Kang Gyoma demands reimbursement for half the remaining scrap metal. Its estimated value reaches roughly 10 million won on the market. The blacksmith refuses because Kang Gyoma's exact instructions produce the weapon. He also already offered to perform every future enhancement without charging fees. Kang Gyoma counters that his B-rank sword became worthless metal scraps. Considering its normal market value, Kang Gyoma finds his demand entirely reasonable. The blacksmith keeps protesting until Kang Gyoma's blade catches the light. Kang Gyoma's murderous glare finishes what the gleaming edge started. Seeing no escape, the blacksmith desperately lowers his proposed payment to 500. Kang Gyoma responds by raising the demanded amount to 1,000. Even that figure remains painfully beyond what the blacksmith can comfortably afford. Kang Gyoma refuses further negotiation down and lets his sharpened sword emphasize matters. That weapon could easily extract equivalent value through far bloodier methods. Faced with money or death, the blacksmith finally accepts Kang Gyoma's price. Kang Gyoma later sits alone on a campus bench, reviewing his blessing. Obtaining a new weapon has raised his armament and unlocked additional options. Excruciating agony remains the main reason Kang Gyoma avoids the sword god's blessing. His improved statistics have now lowered that unbearable pain by 1 level. Since pain reduction can advance further, upgrading it becomes Kang Gyoma's greatest priority. An earlier test proves the blessing's agony remains almost impossible to endure. Previously, Kang Gyoma felt death itself closing around him during activation. Now the sensation resembles suffocating while desperately clinging to consciousness. A single level creates enough improvement to offer Kang Gyoma genuine hope. With repeated upgrades, the sword god's blessing might eventually become painless. Armament apparently grows whenever Kang Gyoma acquires or enhances another weapon. With midterms finished, weapon enhancement should become Kang Gyoma's immediate objective. Increasing those levels may eventually help Kang Gyoma comprehend this mysterious power. Continued growth might even reveal who hurled Kang Gyoma into this world. While eating lunch, Kang Gyoma senses someone approaching and jolts from contemplation. The unexpected visitor is Chloe, whose recovery appears to be progressing smoothly. Chloe has already removed her cast, despite still needing crutches. Kang Gyoma asks whether Chloe's body has fully recovered yet. Although walking remains difficult, Chloe already feels stronger than she did previously. During their conversation, Kang Gyoma spots a rice crumb upon Chloe's cheek. Kang Gyoma casually reaches across and gently brushes the crumb away. That fleeting touch overwhelms Chloe with happiness and sends her tumbling down. From the ground, Chloe notices Kang Gyoma's sword resting upon the bench. Every previous weapon Chloe saw him wield resembled an ordinary kitchen utensil. Seeing Kang Gyoma carrying a genuine sword consequently feels like a major development. Its E-rank classification still deeply bothers Kang Gyoma, despite the blacksmith's repayment. The weapon remains impractical until Kang Gyoma gathers enough materials for reinforcement. In truth, Kang Gyoma has little practical need to become stronger. Defeating the mermaid already proved Kang Gyoma can handle mid-tier magical beasts. His true reason for enhancing the sword is reducing the blessing's pain. Chloe misreads Kang Gyoma's thoughtful expression as disappointment over her E-rank remark. Her dangerously devoted reasoning immediately sentences the blacksmith to death for upsetting him. Kang Gyoma quickly pulls Chloe back from that violent train of thought. Then Kang Gyoma detects someone or something secretly observing them nearby. He approaches a neighboring tree and drives a powerful kick into it. An unexpected spy crashes from the branches and lands beside them. The intruder is Nox, Chloe's brother, and discovery clearly irritates him. Chloe bristles at Nox for suddenly appearing and secretly watching them. Kang Gyoma detects no blood scent coming from Nox's body. Nox also carries no visible weapon, making an immediate attack seem unlikely. Still, following them suggests Nox has some important purpose for coming. Nox remains silent long enough for Kang Gyoma to expect the worst. He soon clarifies that ordinary murderous intentions did not bring him here. Nox came to deliver a warning directly to Kang Gyoma. The Academy elders ask Nox's family to eliminate Kang Gyoma. Chloe confronts Nox and demands whether that request explains his appearance. Rather than answering, Nox comments on Chloe's long absence from home. According to Nox, that prolonged separation has dulled Chloe's former sharpness. Ignoring him, Chloe orders Kang Gyoma behind her for protection. Both men watch Chloe desperately swipe toward Nox from beyond striking distance. Her lingering disability makes the fierce protective display painfully ineffective. Nox resumes his warning after observing Chloe's determined but futile defense. Whatever Kang Gyoma has recently done means very little to Nox. Yet the Academy elders remain strangely and intensely fixated upon Kang Gyoma. The unease extends beyond Nox, unsettling Chloe's entire family. For now, that collective discomfort forces them to postpone the request. They submit the request secretly, even bypassing the Academy head. Yet the order comes directly from the elders, making refusal extremely difficult. Continued pressure will eventually force Chloe's family to investigate Kang Gyoma. Whatever their reasons, Nox believes Chloe deserves this warning as family. His true motive now becomes painfully obvious to Kang Gyoma. Nox invokes family principles, yet concern for Chloe actually drives him. With his explanation finished, Nox turns and starts walking away. Kang Gyoma stops him, asking about their previous conversation. He specifically recalls Nox saying Chloe grows weaker beside Kang Gyoma. Red-haired Nox merely turns away again and keeps walking. Even Nox can see Chloe feels happiest beside Kang Gyoma. Accepting that truth, Nox decides not to interfere. Chloe herself has never witnessed her brother behaving this way. As he departs, Nox demands that Kang Gyoma prevent further harm to Chloe. Kangyoma's delayed understanding only makes Nox angrier. Sensing the irritation, Kangyoma hastily gives his promise. Nox then directly asks how Kangyoma became so powerful. Kangyoma looks surprised anyone would describe him as strong. To him, true strength means enduring every threat at all times. The Sword Emperor represents that unreachable standard in his mind. Kangyoma can sustain his peak for under 1 minute daily. Such limitations leave him no grounds for boasting or discussing strength. Nox used Chloe as justification for exposing family secrets to an outsider. That recklessness gives Kangyoma no reason to trust his discretion. Instead, Kangyoma invents an answer meant to satisfy Nox. He bluntly tells Nox that his training lacks genuine desperation. Despite Nox's academy-honed skill, experienced fighters carry a different presence. Remaining sheltered inside the academy will eventually cap Nox's growth. Nox must venture outside and accumulate practical experience first. Persistent effort, Kangyoma claims, will surely produce some reward. That is the most nonsense he can offer without sounding blatantly dishonest. Kangyoma quickly rises and leaves, avoiding any follow-up questions. Back in class, students study history alongside the nature of blessings. Kangyoma ignores the lecture, dwelling instead on the elders' interest. Their lineages trace back to 5 of the great master's 7 disciples. He remembers their enormous influence spanning both the academy and wider world. Within the game, they repeatedly obstruct the protagonist to protect themselves. Players consequently brand them the corrupt remnants. They should pursue the game's main character, not Kangyoma. Their abrupt fixation on him makes no immediate sense. Kangyoma writes down several possible motives behind their scrutiny. Reviewing his achievements since enrollment reveals how much trouble he causes. By now, his behavior practically resembles a campaign for attention. Still, none of his actions reasonably justify the elders targeting him. His battle against the mermaid on the island particularly stands out. The mermaid clearly targets Leon, viewing him as an obstacle. Medea may bury the incident carefully, but rumors still escape. News of Kangyoma defeating the mermaid surely reaches noble society's highest circles. Leon is a hero candidate, making that attack especially revealing. At least one elder, perhaps every elder, must cooperate with demons. They seek not merely to obstruct Leon, but to murder him. They prioritize preserving personal authority over humanity and academy safety. The entire conspiracy reeks of decay beyond any acceptable limit. Kangyoma could storm their chambers and slaughter every elder easily. Yet the proper moment for such action has not arrived. When that day comes, Kangyoma vows to cut everyone down. This revelation strengthens his plan to gather materials for enhancing his weapon. First, he needs companions because tackling the dungeon alone seems too difficult. Chloe would gladly join him, though one willing ally cannot suffice. Rather than Rachel's brute force, he needs someone strategically minded. Speed Weapon becomes his first and clearest candidate. After class, Kangyoma visits the dragon class, seeking Speed Weapon. Upon arrival, a hulking cadet immediately blocks Kangyoma's path. The hulking cadet openly resents Kangyoma's status as a special student. Kangyoma recognizes a third-rate nuisance destined to become exhausting. He walks away, warning the hulking cadet not to bother him. Kangyoma adds that retreating now might spare the hulking cadet's jaw. The hulking cadet draws back his fist, plainly eager to fight. Kangyoma finds the incoming punch almost laughably slow. Another fist strikes first, slamming directly into the hulking cadet's jaw. Nearby students turn toward the sudden burst of violence. Speed Weapon blows on his aching hand after hitting such a sturdy chin. Kangyoma knows strength mages, but a strength healer feels entirely new. Smiling, Speed Weapon asks whether Kangyoma came specifically seeking him. Kangyoma suggests talking outside, then explains everything Speed Weapon needs to know. He must assemble a party quickly and needs assistance recruiting members. Everyone else will divide the clear rewards if they cooperate. In return, Kangyoma intends to claim the magical beast's materials. Recruiting alone would only bring Chloe from Kangyoma's own class. Speed Weapon's connections inside Dragon class should make recruitment considerably easier. Academy rules aside, Speed Weapon believes Kangyoma could clear 5 or 6 dungeons alone. That estimate assumes Kangyoma can withstand his blessing without magical painkillers. Kangyoma admits he cannot clear even 1 dungeon by himself. Speed Weapon dismisses that answer as Kangyoma merely acting humble. Their conversation drifts toward Kangyoma's improved appearance since the midterms. After more casual chatter, Speed Weapon accepts because refusing offers him nothing. Working beside Kangyoma also promises Speed Weapon an unfamiliar kind of experience. Kangyoma chooses the C-rank Buffalo dungeon located in Seoul. Kangyoma, Chloe, and Speed Weapon already form a 3-person party. That leaves them needing exactly 1 additional member. Kangyoma immediately rules out Rachel and Leon, though neither would join anyway. Rachel has remained secluded since Kang Jioma entered the hospital. She spends that isolation practicing throughout the academy's training grounds. Leon is preparing upper-grade dungeon raids alongside second-year and third-year students. Their unavailability pleases Kang Jioma, but leaves the final position unresolved. One possible recruit occurs to Speed Weapon, though that person is probably sleeping. Kang Jioma finds daytime sleep unbelievable because noon has barely passed. Speed Weapon remains unsurprised, explaining that such behavior is perfectly normal for him. He promises an introduction but first requests a convenience store visit. That night, they arrive at what appears to be Speed Weapon's home. The traditional Korean building surprises Kangoma with its presence inside the academy. Even while playing Miracle Blessing M, Kang Jioma never discovered this location. Kang Jioma once worked as a Korean cuisine chef in his previous life. Despite always wanting to explore Seoul, he never managed to visit. They cross the courtyard and continue around toward the building's rear. There lies Speed Weapon's intended recruit, sleeping exactly as predicted. Speed Weapon approaches and repeatedly tries waking him, without any visible success. Changing tactics, Speed Weapon bends closer and whispers that he brought it. Kang Jioma cannot identify the mysterious item, but the sleeper instantly awakens. Speed Weapon points toward Kang Jioma, claiming he carries the desired prize. Without hesitation, the recruit charges forward and snatches Kang Jioma's bag. His incredible momentum sends him spinning through the air above Kang Jioma. The recruit lands directly atop Kang Jioma, leaving him stunned underneath. Still sprawled across Kang Jioma's chest, he devours their convenience store treats. Kang Jioma struggles to understand the bizarre sequence unfolding around him. The recruit casually asks whether Kang Jioma brought more yangang. Yangang is a Korean dessert traditionally prepared from sweetened bean paste. In his former life, Kang Jioma knew little beyond relentless work. Miracle Blessing M offered escape from days spent constantly surrounded by men. Like countless gacha addicts, Kang Jioma once waited hopefully upon his porcelain seat. He spent an alarming amount of one while praying fortune favored his summons. Abel was the dazzling prize responsible for emptying Kang Jioma's wallet. Predictably, random fortune answered Kang Jioma's devotion with crushing disappointment. Instead of Abel, an equally rare standard character appeared on his screen. That character immediately asked Kangoma whether he had any yangang. His name was Ryozo, whose striking beauty only deepened Kang Jioma's gacha suspicions. To Kang Jioma, that confirms gacha games are nothing but scams. The game's narrative follows Leon alongside a large cast of distinctive heroines. Developers officially frame Abel as the central romantic lead among them. Every heroine offers individual charms and abilities, yet Abel dominates the plot. Leon and Abel endure hardships together as their budding love gradually unfolds. In his former life, gambling-addicted Kang Jioma also falls under Abel's spell. That overwhelming focus gradually pushes every other heroine toward irrelevance. Ryozo, Kang Jioma's first 5-star summon, disappears from prominence fastest. Now history repeats as Ryozo casually drops onto Kang Jioma's chest. Settling there, Ryozo immediately asks Kang Jioma for Ryozo's beloved yangang. Kang Jioma hesitates, so Ryozo turns away disappointed and calls him foolish. Despite Ryozo's sleepy indifference, he ranks among the strongest range damage dealers. Ryozo's skill-centered combat style also differs sharply from Leon's. Since Ryozo barely affects the main storyline, recruiting him changes nothing important. By Kang Jioma's reasoning, adding Ryozo should cause no trouble. Speed Weapon nervously presents another candy, which Ryozo instantly snatches away. Ryozo tells Speed Weapon to stop stalling and state his request. Speed Weapon explains that Kang Jioma approached him earlier that afternoon. Kang Jioma wants a team for next week's Buffalo Dungeon Raid. Ryozo studies him quizzically, then walks closer with a pointed question. Was Kang Jioma the cadet who fought upperclassmen during subspace training? Kang Jioma stays silent while both men hold each other's gaze. Unimpressed by that silence, Ryozo turns away without accepting. The dungeon directly affects their grades, giving Ryozo little reason to refuse. Yet Kang Jioma lacks the conviction Ryozo expected from a leader. Judging anyone while half asleep seems rich, even coming from Ryozo. Still, Ryozo refuses teammates who appear so thoroughly unmotivated. Speed Weapon cites Kang Jioma's recent fight while arguing for his strength. Even that impressive clash fails to change Ryozo's assessment. Speed Weapon nearly reveals the mermaid incident from their midterm examination. Speed Weapon catches himself quickly, preventing Ryozo from asking further questions. Instead, Speed Weapon mocks Ryozo for openly drooling over yangang. Kang Jioma watches their bickering with growing contempt. To Kang Jioma, a party member may be greedy or rude, never both. Begging someone like Ryozo would only waste Kang Jioma's time. Kang Jioma turns away and orders Speed Weapon to follow. Ryozo's poisonous attitude has no place in their party. Coldly, Ryozo asks whether the dungeon raid matters so little. The two men lock eyes again in tense silence. Without warning, Kang Jioma draws a knife hidden inside his belt. Kangyoma tosses it backward toward an archery target without looking. The blade buries itself precisely in the target's center. Ryozo barely registers the hit when Kangyoma launches another knife. The second blade strikes the first knife squarely through its handle. Ryozo topples over in shock at Kangyoma's effortless accuracy. Kangyoma calmly asks whether Ryozo wants their party invitation now. The next day, Ryozo reaches the meeting room ahead of everyone. Speed Weapon and Chloe enter first, receiving Ryozo's casual greetings. When Kangyoma sits down, Ryozo greets him with visible nerves. The assembled party immediately turns toward the business awaiting them. Their dungeon clearance permits are ready, so planning can finally begin. Speed Weapon approaches the room's board and outlines the dungeon's details. The Buffalo Dungeon contains C-rank demonoid buffaloes. Known as water buffaloes, these creatures charge from afar before fighting up close. Ranged attacks exploit their weakness and keep their charges manageable. Overall, clearing this dungeon should be a straightforward operation. Still, the Academy imposes one absolute rule on every student challenger. Nobody may open the stone gate standing at the dungeon's center. Rumors claim some mysterious seal rests upon that gate. That explanation remains an unconfirmed hypothesis rather than established fact. The Academy's permit also demands closure, leaving no reason for disobedience. Kangyoma nervously agrees that nobody should ever open it. Kangyoma's uneasy tone suggests knowledge he refuses to share. The others ask whether Kangyoma knows what waits behind the gate. Kangyoma lies, denies knowing anything, and warns everyone away. In truth, a hidden boss waits behind the sealed doorway. The gate only responds after a specific set of conditions is met. For now, the game system keeps that entrance firmly locked. Even with accidental opening risks, the dungeon's efficiency remains unmatched. Kangyoma redirects his attention toward Ryozo, who happily munches another Yangang. Ryozo's obvious fondness for those sweets draws everyone's attention. Defensively, Ryozo insists that every working brain needs candy. During their conversation, Kangyoma senses something ominous nearby. Chloe also looks ready to kill any girl glancing toward Kangyoma. Kangyoma knows the Academy elders are watching and will eventually emerge. Later that day, the group begins its journey towards Seoul's dungeon zone. After leaving the army, Kangyoma vowed never to revisit this city. Now Kangyoma willingly leads an organized group back there. Their bus stops when an armed checkpoint blocks the road ahead. The driver identifies his passengers as students from their academy. Civilian restrictions evidently prevent ordinary people from entering the dungeon zone. Kangyoma remembers sensing the elders' attention even back then. A dark suspicion also warns him this expedition may end badly. Speed Weapon interrupts his thoughts by offering him some boiled eggs. Kangyoma declines, prompting Speed Weapon to question his apparent nervousness. After all, they are only entering a measly C-rank dungeon. Speed Weapon offers the eggs to Ryozo next, receiving an immediate refusal. Ryozo silently watches the scenery outside, ignoring everyone around him. For one brief instant, Kangyoma senses Ryozo watching him instead. The elders already provide enough scrutiny, yet everyone seems interested in him. Their bus finally reaches land where ancient demons once built nests. Today, that fearsome territory serves as an ordinary farming dungeon. Speed Weapon notices Kangyoma's excessive luggage and asks what it contains. The bulky bag turns out to contain nothing except kitchen knives. As everyone approaches the dungeon, Chloe volunteers to lead as usual. With Chloe taking point, the group advances confidently toward the entrance. Door guards verify their academy affiliation, just like the checkpoint soldiers. They also require all 4 students to sign the visitor register. One guard watches Kangyoma write with unusually intense curiosity. Speed Weapon calls Kangyoma inside, preventing any conversation with the guard. A massive mechanical door opens, allowing the students to enter. Kangyoma looks back once while the heavy doors close. Outside, the curious guard continues staring after the departing group. Inside, past students have covered the walls with cheerful signatures and drawings. Those decorations make the dungeon resemble a tourist attraction. A sudden tug on Kangyoma's arm draws his attention. Ryozo stands there looking exhausted, breathless, and desperate for energy. He asks whether Kangyoma carries anything sweet enough to revive him. Kangyoma searches his pocket and produces a single piece of candy. Ordinary candy does not satisfy Ryozo, who specifically requests Yangang. Kangyoma refuses to babysit him and suggests bringing personal supplies. Ryozo already has some, but claims he is preserving them for later. Chloe interrupts their exchange after spotting approaching monsters 200 meters away. Speed Weapon checks that everyone remains prepared to follow their established plan. He positions himself to strengthen the group's attackers during combat. Ryozo draws his weapon and calmly prepares to fire. Kangyoma identifies it as the S-grade weapon called the Crimson Bow. Such overwhelming equipment should make clearing this dungeon practically effortless. Still, Kangyoma questions whether Ryozo can perform his role properly. Ryozo casually eats another favorite snack bar while the monsters approach. A stampeding pack soon barrels through the cavern toward the students. Chloe charges fearlessly to meet them, wielding twin crossbows. She leaps upward and fires both crossbows during the ascent. Each shot pierces a monster directly through one eye. Both targets collapse while their companions surge past the fallen bodies. The remaining monsters continue their reckless charge straight toward Chloe. Chloe reaches behind her and draws a sword from her back. Speed Weapon orders Chloe to retreat, but Ryozo acts even faster. 3 arrows streak from Ryozo's bow toward the charging monsters. Each arrow drops one target, eliminating 3 threats in rapid succession. None of those monsters manages to reach Chloe. Kangyoma admires Ryozo's skill, but worries about the monster's horns. Broken horns would be useless for Kangyoma's planned weapon enhancement. Regardless, overwhelming support remains valuable, and Ryozo proves an unstoppable attacker. The students proceed deeper after apparently finishing the remaining monsters. One wounded creature suddenly rises and lunges directly toward Ryozo. Ryozo turns to attack, but his foot catches against a rock. Losing his balance, Ryozo begins tumbling helplessly toward the ground. Unable to defend himself, Ryozo curls into a protective posture. Kangyoma arrives in time, catching Ryozo during the fall. His blade cuts down the monster before it can strike Ryozo. Suspended above the ground, Ryozo stares at Kangyoma in disbelief. His mingled shock and excitement escape as one tiny, adorable hiccup. Outside the dungeon, the curious guard answers a call from someone unknown. The secret conversation suggests an unseen scheme is already underway. With most monsters defeated, Kangyoma begins gathering their buffalo horns. Those horns are essential materials for strengthening Kangyoma's weapon. While he gathers them, Ryozo approaches quietly from behind. Ryozo offers one piece of Yangayang, thanking Kangyoma for the rescue. Kangyoma would accept, but Chloe radiates murderous jealousy behind him. He calls Chloe over and quietly gives instructions about the earlier staff member. Chloe understands, then continues discussing the suspicious matter with Kangyoma. Seeing their closeness, Speed Weapon asks whether Kangyoma and Chloe are dating. The possibility instantly leaves Chloe blushing. Kangyoma calmly replies that opposite-sex friendships are not always romantic. His denial displeases Chloe, who silently fixes him with a glare. Changing subjects, Chloe asks why this dungeon contains so few monsters. Even a heavily visited dungeon should never feel this empty. Ryozo likewise senses something wrong with the unusually scarce buffaloes. Their behavior resembles animals fleeing some unseen threat. Such movements are unnatural because buffaloes are normally gentle creatures. Nearby residents even rely on these demonic animals for agricultural labor. Kangyoma finds demonic livestock unbelievable, though stranger things have happened. Ryozo notices another suspicious detail, but chooses not to reveal it. Since their phones still have signal, everyone can summon help if necessary. Deeper inside, Kangyoma asks how Ryozo and Speed Weapon became acquainted. Ryozo explains that he placed first on the written examination. Speed Weapon finished second, then boasted about that result for several weeks. That non-stop bragging eventually brought Ryozo and Speed Weapon together. Ryozo also confirms taking third place during the placement tests. Kangyoma never expected Speed Weapon to be such a loudmouth. Surprisingly, Speed Weapon reveals Rachel is his distant cousin. According to Speed Weapon, noisy behavior simply runs through his family. Their distant kinship explains a gap in Kangyoma's knowledge as a player. He never encountered Speed Weapon's connections to the game's central characters. Speed Weapon's family is a lesser clan branch, while Rachel's is the main branch. That family structure explains why Rachel and Speed Weapon still know each other. Still, Speed Weapon says this is hardly the moment for family talk. He assures Kangyoma that his own life already feels ideal. If anyone deserves admiration here, Speed Weapon insists it is Kangyoma. Thus, Kangyoma has no reason to worry about Speed Weapon. Speed Weapon even believes Kangyoma could become one of the 7 heroes. Chloe agrees enthusiastically, while Ryozo offers no response. Instead, Ryozo steps ahead of everyone and declares hatred for the 7 heroes. The others stare in confusion, yet cannot dwell on his declaration. Their immediate goal is cooperating, clearing the dungeon quickly, and heading back. A valid dungeon clear requires exactly 20 monster kills. Traveling onward, Kangyoma spots cursed-looking claw marks carved across the walls. Speed Weapon and Chloe move ahead while Kangyoma remains absorbed in thought. They call back, urging Kangyoma to catch up with them. Outside, the curious guard continues speaking with the academy instructor by phone. He reports Kangyoma's party should already have met the enraged buffaloes. Every instruction was followed according to the curious guard. He assumes the raging herd has already disposed of them. The academy instructor warns him against growing overconfident. Then the academy instructor demands responsibility if their scheme ends in failure. Unable to answer, the curious guard falls silent. The academy instructor orders another call only after tangible results arrive. Once the call ends, the curious guard studies the dungeon's open doors. Death awaits him either way, so he decides to verify everything personally. He even forced the gate open, eliminating the party's survival chances. Yet Kangyoma's earlier gaze still troubles the curious guard. Those eyes seemed capable of seeing through every hidden detail. fail. Seeking reassurance, the curious guard enters the dungeon to inspect the outcome. Inside, Chloe warns that magical beasts are rapidly closing from behind. Her blessing detects roughly 50 creatures racing directly toward the group. The ground begins shaking as a buffalo stampede thunders toward them. Such an enormous swarm hardly seems like ordinary buffaloes anymore. Supposedly harmless beasts now charge with unmistakable aggression. Something has clearly provoked and enraged this entire herd. The danger summons a lesson once delivered by Kang Jioma's old mentor. Every blade exists to fulfill its own particular purpose. A small chicken knife cannot properly slaughter an ox. Likewise, sashimi knives are designed specifically for preparing fish. Kang Jioma countered by asking his old mentor about beef sashimi. That would mean butchering an ox with a sashimi knife. His old mentor raised the knife, making Kang Jioma expect a blow. Instead, his old mentor smiled down at the freshly sliced fish. With calm amusement, the old mentor admitted Kang Jioma's point was valid. The stampede strangely draws Kang Jioma back into that old memory. Kang Jioma now understands he is about to put a fish knife to use. Those sashimi knives will now have to carve through charging buffaloes. With no time remaining, Kang Jioma immediately starts assigning roles. He orders Chloe to scatter the herd without rushing headlong into it. She must disrupt their formation while avoiding any direct attack. Kang Jioma then smiles at Speedweapon and asks whether he is ready. Speedweapon instantly recognizes another impossible stunt brewing behind Kang Jioma's smile. Speedweapon returns the smile, saying he was born ready for this moment. Ryozo, unfamiliar with Kang Jioma's reality-breaking luck, cannot understand their calm. Kang Jioma calls Ryozo forward and assigns him to hold the front. Ryozo must stop anything that manages to approach them. He agrees shakily, then asks Speedweapon why Kang Jioma seems so calm. Speedweapon tells Ryozo not to be shocked by what happens next. A herd of 50 buffaloes remains an enormous problem, even for them. That is precisely why Kang Jioma brought an arsenal of sashimi knives. One of the nearest buffaloes finally reaches Kang Jioma's group. Kang Jioma hurls his knives at it like deadly projectiles. Within mere minutes, all 50 buffaloes become butchered slabs under Kang Jioma. Ryozo is so stunned that he even drops his weapon. Yet the entire massacre appears to happen within a single heartbeat. Chloe activates her feline blessing and charges among the enraged buffaloes. She strikes several while weaving around every beast she avoids. Her movements create exactly the diversion Kang Jioma requires. Kang Jioma leaps in next, wielding his sashimi knives like projectiles. He slices through dozens without pausing for even a breath. Then one buffalo's thunderous roar makes him stagger and freeze. The remaining buffaloes exploit that opening and heap themselves over him. At one stage, Ryozo fears their numbers may finally overwhelm Kang Jioma. An instant later, the mound atop Kang Jioma violently bursts apart. Chunks of sliced flesh scatter everywhere, leaving no buffalo standing. Only Kang Jioma's team remains upright amid the devastation. After that display, Kang Jioma calmly puts his knife away. He gathers every severed horn and stores them inside his bag. His pain-nullifying blessing now lasts 40 seconds, making the battle effortless. Chloe approaches Kang Jioma and congratulates him on another successful fight. Kang Jioma remembers that victory depended upon help from his party. While everyone chats casually, Ryozo keeps staring at Kang Jioma in disbelief. Speedweapon reminds Ryozo that he already warned him about Kang Jioma's abilities. Even so, Speedweapon understands the silence because he barely believes it himself. Watching Kang Jioma and Chloe stand above the corpses leaves both men unsettled. Together, they wonder what kind of monster Kang Jioma truly is. The group resumes its journey toward the dungeon entrance. Clearing this dungeon normally requires defeating only 20 buffaloes. Kang Jioma has effectively completed that requirement twice by himself. Kang Jioma protests that he contributed nothing during the midterms. Speedweapon starts to mention Kang Jioma's battle against the mermaid. He suddenly remembers that nobody is supposed to know about it. Since Ryozo is present, Speedweapon quickly steers the conversation elsewhere. They keep moving toward the exit after that abrupt change. As they travel, Chloe notices the area has become strangely quiet. They reach a pillar-shaped structure deeper inside the dungeon. It appears to be the single gate they were warned never to open. Everyone studies it silently for a brief, uneasy moment. Without warning, the gate opens as its ceiling chains crumble away. Elsewhere inside the dungeon worker discovers corridors filled with buffalo corpses. He stares in shock, unable to believe the group killed them unaided. His thoughts immediately return to his 20 billion won debt with a lending company. Days earlier, a supposed instructor approaches him with a tempting offer. If he follows her demands, she promises to erase everything he owes. She orders him to take a demon stone and tame the buffaloes. Then he must drive them into a frenzy when Kang Jioma appears. Her final instruction requires opening the stone gate deep inside the dungeon. That last step is meant to finish Kang Jioma's group permanently. Initially, the dungeon worker hesitates because her scheme sacrifices students. Yet freedom from crushing debt proves far too tempting to reject. He accepts the stone, practically drooling as his worries seem to vanish. The supposed instructor leaves, promises contact, and orders him to answer unknown callers. With 20 billion one poised to vanish, the students mean nothing to him. He believes nobody can survive after the stone gates open. Kang Gyoma's team walks through those gates, wondering where they have arrived. Now the dungeon's suspicious ease finally begins making sense. They have walked straight into a carefully prepared trap. Worse, this happened because King Gyoma refused to trust his instincts. The gate opens only when the giant's demon stone enters the dungeon. That demon stone serves as a quest item for the game's middle stages. The fragments found earlier are actually pieces of the giant's mana stone. Still, what King Gyoma never anticipated is the possibility that those fragments alone could leave the door open. Following the game's storyline would make this dungeon's reward incredibly valuable. Right now, survival is the only thing King Gyoma can afford to think about. Something unusual catches his attention on the dungeon's second door. A lone red groove marks the supposedly indestructible stone gate. Kang Gyoma already exhausted all 40 seconds of his painless blessing. His blade should endure long enough to cut the gate and escape. A crushing presence suddenly makes every cadet freeze and turn around. An enormous buffalo stands behind them, radiating terrifying physical power. Defeating this beast grants the extraordinary blessing of transition. That ability transfers and strengthens its owner's blessing upon one selected target. Unfortunately, the transferred power can only be used a single time. Its guardian is an A-grade demon named Inatoros Minatoros, the Buffalo King. Torches ignite by themselves, revealing two hulking buffaloes beside their king. Both flanking guards dwarf every buffalo the cadets previously encountered. Even beside those monsters, the demonic Buffalo King feels overwhelmingly intimidating. Kang Gyoma could cut an exit through the gate right now. Once the king awakens though, nobody will escape without serious injuries. This situation also differs sharply from their dangerous midterm examination. Kang Gyoma knew about the mermaid, but he has fought minotaurs before. At full strength, Kang Gyoma can defeat all three by himself. His 40 seconds of protection from pain are already gone. Brute force will fail, so Kang Gyoma needs a careful strategy. He asks Speed Weapon to provide pain reduction for exactly 2 minutes. If that support lapses briefly, Kang Gyoma will certainly be defeated. He assigns the two lesser buffaloes to Ryozo and Chloe. Kang Gyoma declares that he will handle the king alone. Everyone takes position as the Buffalo King awakens with a vicious roar. Kang Gyoma activates the blessing of the Sword God. Overwhelming pain immediately floods his body, making him cough blood. Speed Weapon's supportive effect at least keeps Kang Gyoma capable of movement. The demon charges, and Kang Gyoma races directly toward the attack. He evades the opening strike and darts aside during its recovery. The blessing's agony remains intense enough to keep him vomiting blood. Even so, Kang Gyoma possesses enough strength to challenge the buffalo. He parries another blow and rushes behind the towering demon. His takedown attempt meets a brutal kick from the massive beast. The impact launches Kang Gyoma backward through the chamber. He regains control before landing, then spits out additional blood. Sensations previously erased by the painless blessing now surge awake. Strangely, enduring the Sword God's full power makes Kang Gyoma feel liberated. Kang Gyoma attacks again as the king's enormous axe crashes downward. He slips past the weapon at speeds his companions barely understand. Their fierce exchange continues, with Kang Gyoma avoiding every incoming strike. Frustrated, the Buffalo King lifts its axe high above its head. The weapon descends in a colossal swing directly over Kang Gyoma. Smoke clears to reveal Kang Gyoma calmly perched atop the axe. Not even a single wound marks his body. Ryozo can barely accept that any human moves that quickly. Fighting at such impossible speed seems even harder to believe. Ryozo cannot keep watching because another Buffalo Guard attacks him. He understands combat's foundations: muscle control, stance, and kinetic leverage. Those principles break an opponent's balance while expending minimal physical effort. Knowing the theory and applying it remain entirely different challenges. With Kang Gyoma filling his thoughts, Ryozo fires into the buffalo's eye. Enraged by the wound, the blinded beast immediately charges Ryozo. Even near death, Kang Gyoma maintains an utterly unshakable focus. That composure reminds Ryozo of Sieg, the Sword Emperor. Ryozo draws his bow and carefully sights the charging buffalo. One tremendously powerful shot blows the monster's head apart. Ryozo looks back toward Kang Gyoma after finishing his opponent. A recent rumor resurfaces within Ryozo's mind. It concerns a special admissions cadet who forced Sieg to use aura. Kang Gyoma's aura now appears scarcely weaker than Sieg's. Sensing it, the frightened Buffalo King erupts and swings a fist. The furious demon tries knocking Kang Gyoma from its axe. Kang Gyoma smoothly evades the punch and slashes open its attacking arm. Chloe also finishes her buffalo, then wipes blood from her face. She still lacks experience when battling dangerous demonoids. Yet Chloe knows human-like behavior usually signals a far deadlier creature. Still, the exact relationship may not remain constant. Even so, such convincing human behavior proves this demon is exceptionally powerful. Kang Gyoma is clearly facing an overwhelmingly strong opponent. Clutching its severed arm, the monster roars and switches its axe. It grips the weapon one-handed and appears to prepare a spell. That makes no sense, because demonoids cannot normally wield magic. A closer look reveals it is not truly casting anything. Instead, the creature sacrifices its life force to produce mana. Rampant magical power makes approaching the monster nearly impossible. Speed Weapon keeps blowing desperately, trusting Kanjioma to create another miracle. The monster lifts its axe, now fused into its remaining arm. It smashes downward toward Kangioma, who coughs torrents of blood. Kangoma raises his sword and catches the opening blow. A colossal surge of energy immediately spills around his body. He tries slicing through the magical assault, but its density overwhelms him. Dodging is impossible because his teammates stand directly behind him. Any retreat would leave them absorbing the attack's full force. The Buffalo King bears down harder, steadily driving Kangjoma backward. Defeat seems imminent until an arrow suddenly pierces the monster's eyes. Ryozo angrily orders Kangioma to quit spacing out and strike. Kangama closes his eyes briefly, then opens them with renewed power. The axe slowly splits while his sword begins glowing brilliant blue. That radiance resembles Sieg's sword aura from their earlier sparring match. Kangioma finally breaks through the axe and cleaves the Buffalo King. A single decisive slice brings the monstrous creature crashing down. Despite everything witnessed, his teammates remain stunned by his overwhelming strength. The terrifying beast lands as two enormous slabs of lifeless flesh. Kangioma gazes upward while his frayed nerves finally settle. Only now does he accept that his blade truly cut through. Ryozo stares speechlessly, finally understanding Speed Weapon's faith in Kangioma. His assimilation rate also jumps from 9.3 to 12.7. Speed Weapon collapses, his lips bruised and aching after the endless performance. Kangioma keeps demolishing Speed Weapon's understanding of what should be possible. His sword's blue radiance had illuminated every corner of the cave. Despite his youth, Kangioma has already manifested an aura. Speed Weapon can barely believe someone so extraordinary is even human. Ryozo approaches and reminds Speed Weapon to breathe, jolting him back. He says Kangioma's display explains Speed Weapon's earlier warning perfectly. Now Ryozo also understands why Speed Weapon constantly follows Kangioma around. Ryozo asks whether Academy rules prevent Kangioma joining their class. Nothing stops Ryozo from transferring into Kangioma's class instead. Smiling, Ryozo decides he now wants to tag along as well. Kangioma struggles for air while adrenaline drains from his body. Speed Weapon's blessing cannot spare his battered body from the lingering strain. Still, enduring battle without painlessness marks meaningful progress for Kangioma. Chloe barrels into Kangioma, sobbing and frantically checking his condition. He asks her to calm down because her weight worsens his grave injuries. Chloe retreats with a blush while Kangioma questions his life choices. A status window appears announcing Kangioma has acquired another blessing. That blessing was meant for Leon, the rarest spirit rank this world knows. Its true potential only emerges when paired with another blessing. The transition blessing transfers an owned blessing into living beings or objects. Direct physical contact with a chosen target remains mandatory. This power is essential for controlling a certain dual-natured sword. Leon will acquire that sword later during his adventures. Since Kangioma gained this formidable blessing, he plans to use it well. Then he spots someone watching through the newly opened stone doors. Kangioma asks whether Chloe remembers his earlier requested favor. In 1 second, Chloe slams into the Watcher, stopping his escape. She drives a knife into his thigh, leaving him immobilized. Speed Weapon and Ryozo cannot understand what has suddenly happened. Kangioma calmly approaches, explaining that Chloe is fulfilling his earlier request. The Watcher feigns innocence and asks what justified this treatment. Speed Weapon and Ryozo quickly grasp Kangioma's underlying suspicion. The rampaging buffalo herd and open stone gate now seem connected. The timing remains suspicious because no surveillance cameras operate inside the dungeon. Yet the Watcher arrives exactly when the disaster unfolds. His deliberate timing proves he targeted them, though his motive remains unknown. Ryozo quickly concludes the Watcher could not have orchestrated everything alone. Ryozo and Kangioma promise death unless the Watcher starts explaining. Facing certain death, the Watcher finally gives in and confesses. Several days earlier, an academy instructor approached him with an offer. She promised to clear his gambling debt if he helped eliminate these students. Speed Weapon cannot fathom betraying students for one ordinary gambling debt. The Watcher attempts to justify himself, only inflaming Speed Weapon further. Ryozo restrains Speed Weapon from attacking the already wounded Watcher. He then demands a clear description of the instructor. The Watcher describes a tall woman with purple hair and purple eyes. Ryozo immediately immediately suspects their class's assistant instructor. Her piercing sharp eyes had made her especially memorable to him. Speed Weapon connects the same woman to the midterm incident. Curious, Ryozo asks what happened during those exams. Kangyoma finally reveals they encountered a demonoid mermaid during midterms. Ryozo understands that fighting a demon sent Leon to the hospital. Since Kangyoma admits it himself, Speed Weapon can finally stop concealing everything. Speed Weapon reveals Kangyoma defeated the monster entirely alone. After today's display, Ryozo does not question that claim. As they argue, Kangyoma ends the recording on his phone. The Watcher has surrendered every useful detail Kangyoma needed. With his usefulness exhausted, the Watcher becomes disposable. Chloe yanks her sword from his thigh, drawing a tortured shout. A dungeon that should never open has conveniently opened anyway. That impossible opening creates the ideal place to erase someone forever. Turning away, Kangyoma orders Chloe, their assassin, to remove the trash. Chloe's eyes gleam with obsessive delight, and the Watcher's screams end instantly. Walking out, Kangyoma silently challenges the Academy's elders and instructors. His challenge also extends toward everyone else hunting him. Whatever they attempt, Kangyoma vows to erase them all. Kangyoma returns to the Academy carrying the Cow King's horn. It comes from the Minotaur boss of the Hidden Water Buffalo dungeon. The horn guarantees successful enhancement for any weapon below A rank. Kangyoma asks the blacksmith to enhance his sword using the horn. The blacksmith is stunned by the A-grade beast material. Even for an Academy student, obtaining such material seems absurd. He asks how Kangyoma defeated the boss alone. Kangyoma simply credits the victory to his team. He drops his battered sword onto the table and requests repairs. The blacksmith's earlier excitement vanishes upon seeing the ruined E-rank sword. He painstakingly crafted it, yet Kangyoma has battered it beyond recognition. One glare from Kangyoma instantly corrects the blacksmith's attitude. With their business settled, Kangyoma leaves the sword for completion. Watching him depart, the blacksmith wonders how life became this miserable. As petty revenge, he considers making the repaired blade even shorter. At the exit, Kangyoma says the leftover materials can fund a drink. The blacksmith sighs, wondering how this strange kid entered his life. Back in class, Kangyoma reflects upon his recent growth. He has improved greatly, though more speed weapon blessings would still help later. His blessing screen appears longer every time he checks it. The most striking change remains his steadily rising assimilation rate. Unlike his other statistics, assimilation surges after every major battle. Another dungeon clear will likely raise it and unlock something fascinating. Despite his soaring statistics, gray hairs keep appearing after his first Chloe spar. Kangyoma worries everything might fall out once it turns white. With enemies targeting him repeatedly, full preparation remains essential. He cannot allow such problems to cause a meaningless death. Kangyoma must also study the blessing of transition. He feels slightly guilty for taking that blessing from Leon. Still, Leon is the story's protagonist and will collect countless enhancements anyway. Too many tasks await, but Kangyoma must prioritize recovery. Looking down, he notices a gift of Yoken resting on his table. The candy tastes unbearably sweet, nearly crossing into inedible territory. The Yoken is unmistakably Ryozo's gift, stirring memories within Kangyoma. For the first time, he personally led a team through a dungeon. Assassination attempts have already become an ordinary feature of his daily life. Still, having people he can call friends feels surprisingly worthwhile. Speed Weapon and Chloe barely matter within the main story's larger course. He cannot even tell whether Chloe personally regards him as a friend. After the dungeon, Chloe is hospitalized when a fever suddenly strikes. Kangyoma plans to visit her whenever his schedule finally allows. His reflection ends when the Wolf class instructors enter and demand silence. A vibration buzzes inside his pocket, announcing a message from an unknown contact. The stranger asks what he is doing, leaving Kangyoma thoroughly puzzled. He wonders whether they have met somewhere, but another message immediately arrives. This time, the unknown sender simply instructs him to look ahead. Kangyoma raises his gaze and finds Ryozo entering with a smug grin. Ryozo waves his phone, whose wallpaper matches the contact's profile picture. The instructors announce Ryozo's assignment to Wolf class, effective immediately. Once announcements finish, everyone must change and reach the training grounds within 30 minutes. The Stun class learns Ryozo personally requested this surprising reassignment. Students attempt to greet him as he crosses the room, but Ryozo ignores everyone. Kangyoma watches his confident stride, questioning whether Ryozo truly joined his class. Among this year's recruits, Ryozo belongs to the famed Miracle Generation. The Academy's top 4 are Ryozo, Kangyoma, Rachel, and Abel. Ryozo ranks first academically, while his fighting ability trails only slightly. His sharp mind and physical prowess make him exceptionally well balanced. Ryozo is also the child of a hero called the Absolute Bow. That parent numbers among 7 heroes Pharaohs and serves as Korea's prime minister. This powerful position makes Ryozo practically a prince of Korea. Korea remains a global superpower, so his classmates react like celebrity fans. Only Kang Jeoma panics, silently begging Ryozo to stay far away. Ryozo smiles toward him, while Kang Jeoma desperately pretends not to notice. Ryozo leaps onto Kang Jeoma's desk, landing there with effortless grace. He displays his phone, wordlessly ordering Kang Jeoma to save his number immediately. Once again, Kang Jeoma's ominous instincts prove painfully accurate. At Seoul's Buffalo Dungeon gates, 2 detectives investigate a missing staff member. Witnesses say the missing guard worried about cadets and entered to investigate. Though he looked unwell, nothing else about the missing guard seemed unusual. The detectives dismiss the questioned guard, then resume inspecting the site. Night falls, and the pair eventually steps outside for a smoking break. Deaths inside dungeons are common, yet even terrible accidents leave bodies behind. This dungeon contains no human remains from the missing guard whatsoever. Only heaps of flesh and blood surround towering piles of buffalo corpses. The detectives struggle to believe ordinary students produce such horrifying destruction. Every cadet returns unharmed, yet the staff member following them vanishes entirely. Not even a corpse remains, making the whole incident deeply suspicious. Neither detective can identify the missing piece behind these contradictions. They consider whether the missing guards somehow entered the stone gate. That explanation seems impossible because nobody has ever opened that gate. They also cannot storm the academy and directly interrogate its cadets. Powerful nobles fill the campus, and their superiors would reject any warrant. The junior detective leaves to urinate, while his partner studies the mystery. Leaning against a cargo crate, the senior detective searches for an explanation. A sudden thud announces the junior detective collapsing beside him. Long, slender legs emerge from the darkness and approach the senior detective. He instantly identifies magic, convincing him that a demon lurks nearby. To his shock, a human woman steps from the shadows instead. The shadow woman cleanly severs his head, dropping his body instantly. His final thought identifies a human bound to a demon through a pact. That makes the shadow woman a demi-demon, equally human and demonic. In simpler terms, she is unmistakably a villain. Ryozo cheerfully eats his snack while relaxing in his new seat beside Kang Jeoma. He asks why Kang Jeoma never ate the snack he shared. Kang Jeoma ignores the question and begins telling Ryozo something else. Kang Jeoma explains that Chloe sometimes occupies Ryozo's current seat. Ryozo shrugs because the seat's supposed owner means nothing to him. In Ryozo's view, whoever arrives first gets to use it. Kang Jeoma seizes the opening to ask why Ryozo transferred here. The teacher interrupts, announcing that assembly begins in 5 minutes. The other students rise and file out of the classroom. Ryozo instead pulls an eye mask over his head, ready to sleep. Kang Jeoma asks whether Ryozo plans to attend morning training. Ryozo refuses, claiming he would rather stay behind and meditate. Really, he plans to nap there without caring what anyone thinks. As Kang Jeoma leaves, Ryozo asks him to stop using his surname. From now on, he wants Kang Jeoma to call him Ryozo. In his homeland, close friends address each other by first names. Kang Jeoma counters that Speed Weapon still addresses Ryozo by his surname. Ryozo dismisses that detail and sends Kang Jeoma off to enjoy training. Then he settles comfortably into his desk and drifts towards sleep. In the Dragon class, Rachel stretches amid today's unusually loud commotion. She starts chatting with Abel and mentions Ryozo's recent class transfer. Such initiative seems strange from someone famous for sleeping through every class. Ryozo usually spends entire days dozing and shows virtually no effort. Abel shows no interest, yet Rachel keeps pressing the subject. Rachel senses the transfer may actually be bothering Abel. After all, class transfers require an available place. Their class apparently began this year with 1 student missing. Ryozo discovering that vacancy seems impressive, given his constant sleeping. Their conversation continues inside the archery hall. Abel cannot see why Ryozo's transfer should bother him. Rachel explains that Ryozo recently cleared the Buffalo Dungeon with Kang Jeoma. Abel catches Rachel's implication, and color suddenly rises across his cheeks. Rachel keeps teasing Abel about his obvious crush on Kang Jeoma. Abel denies it, but Rachel has noticed a revealing pattern. Whenever anyone mentions Kang Jeoma, Abel reacts unlike his usual self. To Rachel, that difference proves something is definitely happening. Abel shakes his head and says they have barely spoken. He insists only a few conversations ever pass between them. Absolutely nothing connects them, and Rachel should stop spreading bizarre rumors. Rachel interprets that as nothing happening between them right now. Still, she notes that something could always develop later. Rachel's playful demeanor abruptly vanishes as her tone turns serious. Abel might fool everyone else, but deceiving himself looks terrible, she says. The blunt warning leaves Abel frozen in place. Rachel simply tells him to give the matter some thought. Her words pull Abel back to a recent conversation with his grandfather. Sieg told Abel that he planned to begin teaching at their school. Abel initially hated the idea, assuming Sieg wanted to follow him around. That prospect felt awful because Abel already receives plenty of unwanted attention. Sieg clarified that he was joining the staff to monitor first-year students. After the midterms incident, Abel had personally asked Sieg for help. That request is precisely why Sieg decides to watch over them. Sieg promises Abel they will not cross paths very often. Yet a sharp gleam in Sieg's eyes proves impossible to conceal. The once indifferent swordmaster is suddenly choosing to enter the field. Abel believes only Kang Gyoma could trigger such a change in Sieg. Kang Gyoma is a prodigy who ignores rank and smashes through noble society. He advances through sheer strength, refusing to bow before status. His absurd talent defies reason, while his background marks a fast-track student. At their first meeting, Kang Gyoma was merely a scrawny, sneaking child. Now he has matured into a powerful young man with piercing eyes. Abel considers him even greater than Leon, the supposed hero candidate. Kang Gyoma follows the hero's path far more clearly than Leon. Despite that, he never flaunts himself or brags about any accomplishment. Instead, Kang Gyoma simply keeps advancing in silence. If Kang Gyoma acted arrogant once, Abel might manage to dislike him. Yet his unique nature leaves Abel unable to deny his worth. Abel even envies the recognition Sieg gives Kang Gyoma. Feeling that jealousy only makes Abel more ashamed of himself. Rachel's mocking stare abruptly pulls Abel from his private thoughts. Abel again denies harboring any feelings for Kang Gyoma. He insists his life has no time or space for such thoughts. Rachel says she is glad to hear that answer. With Abel out, Rachel can pursue Kang Gyoma with almost no competition. She only needs to handle Ryozo, leaving nobody else in her way. Back in class, Kang Gyoma listens as the teacher lectures about blessings. The lesson explains how blessings are divided into ranks. A blessing's rank depends upon the spirit dwelling inside it. When a guardian spirit inhabits one, it receives guardian level classification. The teacher starts explaining what happens if another kind resides within. A true spirit dwelling there instead makes it a spirit level blessing. During the lesson, Ryozo suddenly jerks awake, then immediately lies back down. Even the teacher appears unable to keep Ryozo awake. The lesson simply continues despite Ryozo sleeping through everything. Ryozo transferred into the class 2 days ago. Yet Ryozo still has not explained why he joined them. Sleeping all day leaves Kang Gyoma no opportunity to ask. If Ryozo only naps, sitting beside Kang Gyoma seems pointless. Fortunately, Chloe remains hospitalized, preventing the situation from becoming complicated. Ryozo also protected Kang Gyoma after the dungeon incident. Thanks to that support, everything ended without much difficulty. Ryozo operates on another level, far beyond speed weapon. Continuing the lecture, the teacher outlines 4 blessing categories. Personal blessings rank lowest, with guardian blessings positioned above them. True blessings come next, while heroic blessings hold the highest rank. Most academy cadets possess personal spirit blessings, the weakest classification. Still, some personal blessings can outperform guardian level blessings. True spirit blessings remain extraordinarily rare across the entire world. Kang Gyoma happens to possess one, called the Blessing of Transition. Heroic blessings, by comparison, are treated as legendary phenomena. Since blessings first manifested, only the hero of origins awakened one. Modern rumors now claim that a second person exists. Kang Gyoma knows that rumored person possesses the miracle blessing. When class ends, the teacher promises to continue next time. Kang Gyoma stops the teacher with one final question. Whenever the sword god blessing activates, Kang Gyoma faintly hears something. The mysterious voice says, "May divine blessings always accompany you." That question makes the teacher pause, while Ryozo slightly awakens. The teacher cannot understand what Kang Gyoma means. More importantly, Kang Gyoma's question contains an impossible contradiction. No gods remain anywhere within their world anymore. Without gods, nobody could possibly receive their shared blessing. The teacher leaves while Ryozo chuckles at Kang Gyoma's embarrassing question. Kang Gyoma asks whether Ryozo has finally finished sleeping. Ryozo merely turns away and immediately resumes his nap. Kang Gyoma cannot blame Ryozo for wanting more sleep. Instead, Kang Gyoma decides to take a nap too. As consciousness fades, a message begins forming before Kang Gyoma. Kang Gyoma awakens to an enormous notification floating nearby. The notification says the GM requests a private conversation. Suddenly, Kang Gyoma appears inside a strange, abstract world. Countless floating scraps surround him alongside the hovering message. The notification changes, asking whether Kang Gyoma accepts the GM meeting. Another message says the GM is altering the world line through code. Kang Gyoma has never heard the word world line before. Nothing about this bizarre situation makes sense to him. Everything abruptly falls silent as another system notice appears. The notice warns that the dimensional gap remains too vast. Kang Guillaume's current level is also insufficient for this meeting. He has not fulfilled the mysterious new traits requirements either. Despite those problems, the system asks whether Kang Guillaume still wishes to proceed. Kang Guillaume hesitates, carefully examining the unfamiliar surroundings. This strange environment feels far too tangible for a dream. Still, the GM may finally explain the Sword God blessing. Kang Guillaume might also learn why he entered this world. Choosing answers over caution, Kang Guillaume accepts the GM meeting. The surrounding world transforms as its world line code gets rewritten. Everything around Kang Guillaume suddenly fractures into countless pieces. He drops into a place that already feels deeply familiar. Kang Guillaume first visited this place during the academy entrance. That was when the Sword God blessing initially awakened. A distant light now glows at the area's farthest end. As always, Kang Guillaume cannot determine how clearly it shines. Even so, Kang Guillaume senses himself gradually approaching that light. A little more effort should finally bring Kang Guillaume there. Suddenly, a voice calls out and orders Kang Guillaume awake. A hand tears through the darkness and seizes his shoulder. The system immediately identifies this intrusion as external interference. In response, the system postpones Kang Guillaume's conversation with the GM. Kang Guillaume reaches outward, desperately trying to cling to this reality. The hand forcibly drags Kang Guillaume from the mysterious space. Just before his removal, the GM sends one final message. It commands Kang Guillaume to cut and sever everything, regardless of its nature. The GM then wishes divine blessings upon Kang Guillaume. Kang Guillaume is abruptly pulled back into the waking world. Ryozo shouts repeatedly, demanding that Kang Guillaume wake up. Ryozo complains that Kang Guillaume always tells him not to sleep. Kang Guillaume now naps peacefully, despite always forbidding Ryozo from sleeping. Ryozo's tirade dies when he notices Kang Guillaume crying and unresponsive. Later, Kang Guillaume rests on a bench, revisiting his recent dream. He recalls Ryozo showing sincere concern upon seeing tears on his face. Yet Kang Guillaume cannot remember anything that actually happened inside the dream. Being caught crying by Ryozo, of all people, also feels humiliating. While he broods, his unusual new friends gather around the bench. They have assembled to compare everything uncovered about the recent incidents. Someone within the academy is undeniably targeting Kang Guillaume, requiring decisive action. Speedweapon begins summarizing, but Ryozo interrupts because he knows everything already. Ryozo refuses to endure another full retelling of the same story. Kang Guillaume requested the briefing, though their bickering visibly pains him. During their argument, Kang Guillaume hears Chloe coughing behind his seat. A face mask covers Chloe, who plainly has not recovered yet. Kang Guillaume asks whether Chloe feels any better than earlier. Chloe says yes, but keeps away because she may remain contagious. Turning back, Kang Guillaume asks Ryozo whether he discovered anything new. Ryozo instead bristles over another name and immediately insists on Ryozo. Kang Guillaume nervously glances toward Chloe, expecting her usual sharp reaction. Illness and fear of spreading flu apparently leave Chloe too distracted. To calm him, Kang Guillaume immediately starts addressing him as Ryozo. Their discussion returns to the Academy Elders and the present danger. Speedweapon wants every fact clarified before they decide their next move. Beyond the Elders' targeting, they possess the guard's description of a suspicious female instructor. Those clues solve nothing, leaving the Elders' motives entirely mysterious. The proper authorities will probably handle that broader matter successfully anyway. Regarding the instructor, Ryozo remembers possibly seeing her within security records. Using the Academy's security network, he combs through every instructor and assistant. One woman matches their description, yet her identity remains strangely unverifiable. Kang Guillaume is stunned that Ryozo can accomplish such a feat. Ryozo considers it basic work within their technology-saturated world. Because Academy security is world-class, Ryozo hacks during its weakest pre-dawn window. Already sleep-deprived, Ryozo only becomes even more exhausted afterward. That explains why Ryozo constantly looks sleepy during their classes. It probably also explains Ryozo possessing Kang Guillaume's private number. Kang Guillaume certainly has never given that number to Ryozo. For now, nothing is confirmed, so confronting the Elders remains impossible. Speedweapon counters with another plan. The four should establish their own club. Academy clubs receive financial support and considerable freedom of movement. The school prizes student cooperation, granting clubs numerous valuable privileges. Most importantly, clubs become groups officially affiliated with the Academy. Membership would provide Academy protection, since student status clearly provides too little. That club could become extra armor against enemies inside and outside. Kang Guillaume remembers club mechanics from playing the game during his previous life. Within the game, this system is one of many Academy-focused features. It lets players furnish and decorate their own personal spaces. Players can invite characters there and increase their affection levels. More honestly, it probably exists to drain devoted fans' wallets. Players call this feature the housing system. His old self ignores it, never having enough time to bother. Kang Guillaume marvels that the mechanic now proves genuinely useful in reality. Creating a club comes with several special requirements, unfortunately. First, they need 5 members and an official proposal for administration. With only 4 present, the group still needs 1 additional member. The entire club plan is also being pursued for Kangjeoma's sake. As people age, their relationships usually grow increasingly cautious and calculated. Yet these companions trust and support Kangjeoma despite barely knowing him. Their loyalty during this crisis fills Kangjeoma with heartfelt gratitude. Their first immediate task is choosing an appropriate club name. Chloe proposes an assassination-themed memory name, which everyone finds painfully edgy. Raizo suggests something random, arguing nobody will care about the name. Speedweapon immediately rejects Ryozo's lazy suggestion. The group thinks quietly for a while, searching for something better. Kangjeoma finally proposes making it a travel club. Such a club could clear dungeons and make excursions beyond the academy. The idea also avoids drawing too many suspicious eyes toward their activities. Everyone readily agrees, and their new travel club is officially conceived. Next, they must secure an advisor and finalize everything before next week's exams. Without an advisor, the academy will not recognize their club. This requirement proves difficult because only professor-level staff members qualify. Chloe suggests asking the popular kind professor who teaches blessing studies. His packed schedule makes acceptance unlikely, despite his suitability. The academy employs over 500 staff members, yet only 30 are professors. Among professors teaching first years, merely 10 remain possible choices. Although the school promotes clubs, its rules create frustrating contradictions. Everyone asks Kangjeoma whether he has a suitable candidate. Kangjeoma already has someone particular in mind. Their advisor needs professor rank or higher, opening one remarkable possibility. After all, one academy figure stands above every professor. Once Kangjeoma reveals his choice, everyone doubts his sincerity. Club presidents must personally submit applications for official approval. Kangjeoma naturally becomes president and visits the administrative building himself. There, he presents the application at the document counter. The imposing clerk immediately doubts Kangjeoma can lead any club. Her conduct hardly seems appropriate for an academy employee. She openly belittles Kangjeoma solely for his special admission status. Ignoring her condescension, he requests normal processing if every condition is satisfied. The imposing clerk rises, towering far above Kangjeoma. She declares every new club must first possess a faculty advisor. According to her, no professor appears willing to support his club. Kangjeoma asks exactly what she means by that claim. Her implication remains obvious, despite the question. She assumes special admission status makes every academy professor reject Kangjeoma. Given his background, she considers his club doomed from inception. Kangjeoma finds her prejudice sadly unsurprising. His remaining goodwill toward the academy rapidly drains away. Nearly 20 years in service work exposed him to countless revolting customers. Staying silent usually remains the wisest response during such encounters. Still, he badly wants to plant one satisfying punch. Instead, Kangjeoma calls someone capable of resolving everything. He reports being inside administration, ready to submit his club registration. The imposing clerk shouts because he answers a call inside her office. His contact says they are nearby and will arrive soon. Kangjeoma ends the call after receiving that answer. Now unopposed, the imposing clerk berates his disrespectful behavior in her office. Kangjeoma warns her to follow procedure because his contact is coming. Amid her furious scolding, she misses every coworker bowing and looking away. The imposing clerk boasts about her connection to the headmaster. She claims to be the cousin of the headmaster's close friend. That connection, she says, can instantly expel special admission students like him. Kangjeoma snickers upon hearing such an outrageous threat. Leaning closer, he tells her to lower her painfully loud voice. His rebuke becomes the final blow to her restraint. The imposing clerk twists into an unhinged expression Kangjeoma calls genuine. Suddenly, the door bursts open, startling everyone throughout the office. An enraged Medea strides inside through the shattered doorway. Kangjeoma instructs the imposing clerk to greet his club advisor. Medea smiles warmly, delighted to meet Kangjeoma face to face again. He apologizes for inconveniencing her with this request. Medea replies that she will always come running whenever he calls. Hearing his name finally reveals his identity to the imposing clerk. She has been insulting this year's highest-ranked freshman all along. Medea cheerfully tells Kangjeoma to leave the documents behind. She sends him away to prepare for his written examinations. With Medea present, she promises to handle every remaining detail. Once Kangjeoma leaves, Medea's cheerful demeanor vanishes entirely. Another employee hurriedly carries over a chair for Medea. The imposing clerk desperately insists a misunderstanding has occurred. Medea does not even need to employ any special means. Medea's blessing confirms the imposing clerk mocked Kangjeoma's humble background. Worse, the imposing clerk targeted the student personally selected by both headmistress and swordmaster. Medea's blessing silently places a resignation letter upon the imposing clerk's table. Medea orders the imposing clerk to begin writing within 5 minutes. With that settled, Medea assures Kangjeoma the club application proceeded smoothly. Only one additional member remains necessary to complete the club. Kang Gyoma expects the imposing clerk will be fired and feels no sympathy. Medea also asks Kang Gyoma to visit Medea's office after class. Kang Gyoma returns to the Forge Master, both enemy and friend. Kang Gyoma comes to collect the gear, but the Forge Master requests patience. The Forge Master finally resembles a genuine blacksmith now. Still, Kang Gyoma cannot discern how the Forge Master views Kang Gyoma. Former player memories leave Kang Gyoma with sharply conflicting feelings toward the Forge Master. Recent events intensify Kang Gyoma's resentment, yet pity toward the Forge Master stubbornly remains. As a major game NPC, the Forge Master handled nearly every equipment enhancement. Because such games encourage extremes, players either adored or despised the Forge Master. The Forge Master's notorious services also drained countless player wallets. Kang Gyoma spent modestly during the previous life and could not fully relate. Heavy spenders performed elaborate rituals, begging the heavens for favorable luck. Desperately, those players prayed the Forge Master would bless them once. Most players instead cursed the Forge Master because enhancements depended heavily on chance. Even Kang Gyoma raged when the Scattered Rain sword dropped from B grade to E grade. The Forge Master interrupts Kang Gyoma's memories and asks what occupies Kang Gyoma. The Forge Master then unveils the upgraded blade, proudly declaring the work beyond perfection. Kang Gyoma delights upon learning the sword also gains special options. The Scattered Rain sword now gleams brilliantly, looking pristine and newly forged. Overwhelmed by sudden fortune, Kang Gyoma praises the Forge Master as divine. This enhancement extends Kang Gyoma's painless blessing activation period to 50 seconds. Kang Gyoma considers 40 seconds insufficient for future dungeon expeditions. Those extra 10 seconds should make a meaningful difference. Combining Painless with Transition promises further gains as armament levels rise. That future synergy makes the entire upgrade excellent news for Kang Gyoma. Despite past complaints, Painless proves remarkably flexible for a spirit level blessing. The Forge Master urges Kang Gyoma to inspect another change. Kang Gyoma's Scattered Rain sword has advanced into D-grade territory. After such effort, the result falls below Kang Gyoma's expectations. A grade monster materials from the Buffalo Ruler had made C grade seem reasonable. Since Kang Gyoma frequently channels aura through the sword, durability matters greatly. Raising the sword's hardness by 2 grades consequently feels encouraging. At least the sword should no longer shatter during battle. A flashing status screen button practically begs Kang Gyoma to press it. An ominous feeling warns Kang Gyoma against touching it. Kang Gyoma presses it anyway, revealing fresh information across the screen. The system reports successful reinforcement and unusually high weapon growth potential. Together, those factors allow up to 3 special abilities on the sword. Adding any special ability requires magic stones, whose effects activate randomly. Magic stones remain exceptionally difficult for anyone to obtain. Kang Gyoma barely suppresses shock that strengthening the sword demands them. The Elder, collaborating with a demon commander, hurls a drinking cup into a mirror. The Elder drinks directly from a bottle, then throws that away too. A ceiling portrait above depicts the Elder's father. The Elder's father was a 7-star hero famed as the Mad Tiger. 40 years earlier, the Elder's father died during a campaign against the 6th Demon Commander. Society honored the Elder's father as a noble hero after the death. Immediately afterward, power-hungry relatives repeatedly attempted to assassinate the Elder. Those relatives wanted to seize control of the Elder's family. Survival forced the Elder's heart to become hardened and poisonous. The Elder instead manipulated every plotting relative into destroying one another. Ultimately, the Elder restored the shaken family foundations during that absence. At age 30, the Elder joined the Academy's ruling elders. The Elder's mission became guiding foolish humanity and preserving absolute elite rule. Fortunately, demons supplied humanity with an ideal common enemy. That enemy's existence lent convincing legitimacy to the ruling class's authority. Unexpected variables still repeatedly disrupted the Elder's carefully ordered designs. Leon emerged as the sole hero capable of defeating the Demon King. Fate consequently selected Leon as the destined candidate. Yet the immense power gulf between humans and demons darkens Leon's true victory prospects. In fact, Leon's chance of defeating the Demon King sits near 0. Humanity's legendary ancestral hero once sealed the first Legion commander. That ancient achievement establishes the standard inherited by every later legend. One day, an instructor-like woman approaches a high-ranking official with an offer. She proposes personally eliminating the cadet described as the hero candidate. Initially, the official wonders how an inferior dares address him so casually. Their gazes meet, instantly revealing which of them truly holds higher standing. The woman willingly abandoned humanity and contracted directly with a Legion commander. Such half-human, half-demon traitors are collectively known as villains. Leon already complicates everything, while a lowborn special admission student worsens matters. Even the authorities hesitate, citing insufficient grounds for taking further action. The Elder orders the official to summon the Undertaker unit. Next day's class finds Kang Guillaume scribbling thoughts inside his notebook. His main concern is that his weapon needs magic stones to grow stronger. Weapons equipped with those stones far outclassed ordinary ones. 3 ability slots on a single weapon amount to incredible luck. Specific dungeon bosses drop magic stones, alongside demonic beasts ranked A or higher. Those creatures are demonoids in virtually everything except official classification. King Guillaume seems doomed to battle demonoids throughout his entire adventure. Perhaps having the word demon within his name brought this curse. He glances at Ryozo, sleeping peacefully behind his peculiar eye mask. King Guillaume wonders whether Ryozo spent another whole night awake. A week has already passed since the new club cleared that dungeon. Opening the stone gate inside the Buffalo Monarch's territory also requires a magic stone. That particular stone comes from a colossal beast classified as a gigant. Strangely, someone has already killed one and taken its stone. Even within the game, giants could shake the earth with one footstep. Yet a gigant pales beside monsters introduced through later game updates. Those later creatures are essentially living embodiments of natural disasters. King Guillaume pauses, questioning whether weapon abilities justify gambling with death. Hunting demonic beasts for stones was supposed to be Leon's responsibility. Chloe enters the classroom while King Guillaume remains buried in thought. She greets him, then notices Ryozo sleeping in her preferred seat. Though visibly taken aback, Chloe chooses not to mention it. King Guillaume asks whether Chloe has fully recovered from the dungeon. She confirms that her condition has improved considerably. Chloe notes King Guillaume suffered after forcing blue light from his weapon. He immediately stops her from discussing that incident any further. Her blue light means aura, an effect reserved for exceptionally powerful people. Reconsidering everything, King Guillaume decides gathering magic stones may prove worthwhile. Despite his earlier reluctance, a fierce hunger for strength now grips him. Thoughts of peace and safety have vanished from his priorities. Still, his fundamental objective remains exactly the same: survival. Unforeseen variables absent from the game keep targeting him without mercy. The familiar plot keeps warping, like this world refuses to ignore him. Somehow, an entire month has passed since his academy enrollment. Soon, everyone will learn about the Second World War arriving in 3 years. Strengthening himself and enhancing his weapon are necessities, not optional ambitions. At this pace, he cannot guarantee how the war will end. King Guillaume simply has no faith in Leon as the hero candidate. Even if the mermaid was demonoid, its single attraction attack defeated Leon. For the hero candidate, such a humiliating loss is utterly pathetic. The whole mess exhausts King Guillaume beyond anything words could express.